Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome to the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, October the 31st. I'm Garnet Lee. Glad to be here after being under the weather all morning, but manned up, brought it in. Going to do this show. I got Shane here with me.
We were all at that party last night too, Garnet.
Seriously.
We all were.
You did not go to the after party.
That's true.
Dude, this was not. By the way, the rest of the cast here with me today. David Ellis is here.
Big fun.
Cheers. Good
friend of the show, Christian Nutt from Gamma Sutra is here as well. Thanks for coming, dude.
This is lovely. This is like a reunion for the Tokyo crew.
Christian's back due to popular demand.
Yeah, except that it's not the middle of the night and we're not extravaganza from TGS. And
there's no educational material on the TV in the background.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
But this is a special, spectacular Halloween extravaganza.
All right. So the Halloween extravaganza is going to have what you've been playing in the first segment, 4-minute warning in the second segment. We got news in the final segment. And yes, we were all at community games yesterday, so that's probably a good place to start off with.
Well, that's part of what you've been playing.
Yeah, definitely.
We all played stuff there. So.
But yeah, so I'm telling you, there's some kind of weird bug going around the office anyway. Because if you noticed the email thread this morning, I was not the Lone Ranger, not there.
I don't even notice, Garnet. There's a pandemic that's been sweeping our office for the last 2 weeks. You've been somehow immune to it, but we've all had it. Milky sneezed up a lung. I've been sick for 2 weeks.
My immunity failed. My immunity roll failed yesterday, and I went down for the count. No. So anyway,
but you're here now, so I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm here now. Yeah. All right. So last night we went to the Community Games Unveiling Gala event. Christian, you were there as well.
That's true.
I don't know. I had mixed opinions out of this, but I'll start off with the really good, which is the award winner from this year's Dream Build Play 2008 competition, and that would be Carnivale Showtime.
Okay, wait. That was the winner?
Yeah,
that is the winner.
I would count that among the good games there.
Oh, yeah.
However, my problem with it was the 2 levels I played, I could make those levels in Little Big Planet and they'd look better.
Well,
you can
there's a map editor in the game.
Yeah, you can make your own levels in this game.
You can actually make your
I wish the graphics looked better.
That is made by the Singapore MIT Gambit Lab.
I saw that, but it looks like a 16-bit game to me graphically. I wish they would have done a different style.
It is very simplistic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's first give a quick overview of what it is. Carnivale is a game where you play a daredevil clown that's fired out of a cannon at the bottom of the level, and he then swings sort of ragdoll kung fu style with physics modeling.
You're basically sending a clown corpse.
It's kind of like
but he's articulated like a marionette.
Patrick Klepek had the best description. He's like Bionic Commando meets Peggle.
Yeah, I think definitely has the ragdoll kung fu part.
But it doesn't really have the hook of either Bionic Commando.
The hook is built into the levels, not into the clown.
But I mean, it is fun. It's pick up and play. It's
very simple.
Very simple.
Right. It's like 2 commands. You press the A button to have the little. There's these spinner things in the environment, and they have an arm,
like a claw that shoots out of it. And
people will instantly understand it once they see the video.
I mean,
which is available online.
It is a good game, but it shouldn't cost. I think $5 is the right price for that game. I really do. I think $10 is pushing.
Did they say what it's going to cost?
They didn't say the price.
No one. I talked to developers last night. Not the developers of that game weren't there, but all the developers I talked to had not set their pricing model.
Yeah, I think they're still in flux on that. For that game specifically, though, it's got a map editor. It has its own in-game achievements since they don't support normal Xbox achievements. It has unlockables that the achievements unlock in the game. It's pretty impressive.
It was polished. I think it definitely deserves to make a real retail release because not all the games we saw are necessarily going to come out on Xbox Live Arcade.
For good reason.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I mean, the distinction is whether the games... Any game that makes it all the way through the process, which is not governed by Microsoft except as guidelines rather than actively controlled by them, will be able to download for regular people. But games could potentially graduate to XBLA if they're discovered by, say, a publisher who wants to bring it there.
Regular people can't access all of these. Some of them will be chosen to be, displayed.
Actually, any game that makes it through the entire, development and peer review process will be available for download.
Oh, okay.
By anyone.
Only if you're a member of XNA Club, then that's how you see things that don't make it.
Right.
So there's basically, 3 levels of publicity for these games, then. Places they can end up.
And then there's, of course...
Wait. How did you get 3?
Well, either you're a game that's being tested by everybody, that may be tested by XNA creators only.
Okay.
There's games that make it through that to the free Sample Me on XNA Creators Club for everyone, and then there's retail games on Xbox Live.
Well, here's the thing. The games are not... There's no, direct graduation between, becoming a community game and becoming a real XBLA game per se.
It's all about publishers.
It will only be, if publishers, decide they like the game, and I know publishers are going to be headhunting within that system.
But, absolutely.
Microsoft couldn't choose to release it on XBLA?
They could, but honestly, it's not in their financial well-being because they would make less money
because they make a big licensing fee off the publisher.
30 to 70%.
No. 30% is the number they get if they advertise it up front on the channel.
No, 70%. The Microsoft gets 30 to 70%.
I think you're wrong about that. I wish I had the.
I don't have the numbers anymore.
But I think that 30% was the big number. They don't take 70%, dude. It's not.
That's
a
lot.
Something they're taking.
I know
like
it's
that.
a lot.
I think you're incorrect on this one. I wish I had the press release.
Unless
they've
they've changed it in the last 2 weeks, I'm not.
When they initially announced it, we talked to Chris Satchel about it. They were talking about how they weren't trying to take a lot of money out of their hands. Like, it's very much a community sort of thing. They don't have any rules. There's no like the whole thing about this.
Well, okay, hang on.
Yes,
they do not have any rules. They have a lot of rules. They have a whole set of standards and guidelines that have to be peer reviewed before the games are available to be made available to the public.
But they're not directly. They're not directly directing.
Okay, the difference
the course
is
of the development.
A game that goes on XBLA as a commercial product from a publisher or through Microsoft has a product manager who functions similarly within Microsoft to like a publisher would have for a package game. They go back and forth. They have to go through like approvals and certification, all this stuff. Games and community games don't have a similar process. They don't have someone at Microsoft who shepherds it through the process. But there are standards and practices that have to be followed to actually get your game to the public.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
But yeah, I think Showtime was one of the better ones I played. It wasn't terribly ambitious, but it was fun.
Carnival.
It's Showtime.
Yeah,
Carnival Showtime.
Carnival
Yeah, okay,
Showtime.
so Showtime.
But like, I want to go ahead to the best game there. The game that I really
that was the best game.
No,
there.
the best game
that was
there.
the best game.
The game that I would pay upwards of like maybe even $12
Coming
for.
soon.
Well, the only price points, by the way, are $200, $400, and $800.
So what does that mean?
$10 is the most.
$250, $5, and $10.
Okay, so I think Weapon of Choice is worth $10.
Yes.
Weapon of Choice is you played it. It's like
I played it. It's bizarre.
Cracked out Contra clone that looks like a Lisa Field Trapper Keeper or Lisa Frank.
The only disappointing thing is like no co-op. Like
that is weird.
If it had co-op, like
but
seriously,
it's bizarre.
It is really
crazy
I'm not
colors.
actually sure co-op live functionality is available in the current version of XNA Studio.
None of the games are multiplayer last night.
I don't believe it.
There's
No, head-to-head is available, but I don't think co-op functionality.
Well, Coliseum is like all free for all death.
Right, exactly. Then I think anyway.
But for that game, the interesting thing is like the art style is so bizarre and unique. There's no way a real like publisher or developer would have put a game through out like that. And I just think it's cool. It's going to give people like a different viewpoint on.
It's very like 16-bit throwback, but in HD craziness.
It looks kind of like an Amiga game.
It reminds me of this isn't like a meaningful comparison, but I looked at it and it kind of reminded me of like Legendary Axe in a weird way, not like gameplay wise, but like just like the weird, bright, colorful,
the color set, the super saturation of the colors,
and just like it's bizarre humor, and like Wilford Brimley is your leader.
Diabetes.
Yeah, And I was surprised how good it was, and then it's like, oh, well, the guy who made this used to work at Insomniac, and this is an idea he had a while ago, and he
But not only when he had a while ago, it was his wife found the design document.
I hear this story is being overhyped.
Really?
Actually,
I'd buy that.
I have an interview with him that I did yesterday that isn't up yet, but I will clarify that he doesn't want people to think this is something that's been gestating since he was like a kid or whatever. This is a game he's been wanting to make for a while. He worked on Resistance 1, he worked on Ratchet & Clank Future, and then he decided to move into independent development. The ideas in the game are new and they're based on like current inspirations, but he recently moved back to Indiana where he's from, and his wife was going through boxes in his parents' house and found like design documents for games he'd made in middle school, and he apparently had sent them to like Tecmo and Sega and EA trying to get them like make my game.
Yeah.
I think it's
no wonder it
cool.
has the Trapper Keeper aesthetic.
Well, and it's not just a weird looking Contra clone. It also has some cool gameplay things. Like when you're about to get killed,
the death mechanic
it zooms in
awesome.
really close, and you have like a second to like reposition yourself
Kind of bullet time.
Yeah, to avoid death, and it works really well. And you can pick up people and carry them on your back, and you have like real grappling hook.
And you have two weapons you can select from, and each weapon has like an alternate kind of mode.
Right, and some of the weapons are really neat. There's one guy you were playing, he could like put these little orbs around.
Yeah, they shoot laser beams.
You could say where they shot the lasers.
And then you could direct them with the sticks.
And you have a crazy double jump super attack. Yeah, we played like 2 levels, and I wanted to play more.
And you have this like spider claw backpack.
Yeah.
So you can actually jump on the ceiling and like...
Which you triggered by doing a double jump.
Yeah.
It was weird because it wasn't a trigger to actually getting the claw
it's
to
like
come
they
out.
almost have AI, like the claw's AI.
But I was telling Kathleen Sanders and everyone like that this is your winner. This is the one you should like promote as XNA because like I can't imagine
anyone who bought Bionic Commando Rearmed and was like looking for, not that it's the same game, but you're saying looking for more like classic action will probably go, hey, I'll buy this now.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, the death mechanic part will definitely bring you in because the whole deal of like the skull that slowly starts coming from the background into the foreground, it's kind of ghosted out, semi-transparent, and then the time slows down and you're able to move out of the way. It is a one-shot kill game.
Speaking of games that were like hyped and put in the forefront, like when XNA was being first shown was Coliseum.
Right.
Well, what's funny, Coliseum was the first XNA game, after, like Jellycar and those.
Yeah.
It was at PAX, and it's funny, from its appearance at PAX to its appearance yesterday, it somehow became Street Fighter 4. Like, they redid the art. They redid the art in specifically the Street Fighter 4 art style.
Well, it's interesting. I talked to one of the developers that too, and they had their original concept. He said was too ambitious, and they sort of had to roll it back to get the game going. And in that process, when they were in the process of sort of figuring out where they want to take the game, they changed the art style. I didn't specifically say why.
But it is the best looking of the XNA games.
Yes.
I felt, but the controls.
It's an 11-man team, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were all together at university in Sweden, and they, sort of this came out of their university project. And they transitioned straight into becoming a developer, which is becoming way more relevant. Obviously, everyone knows that the Portal team was largely formed by core people from DigiPen and stuff like that.
Somehow, I ended up playing an older build of Coliseum that one of the systems had preloaded onto it.
Really?
Which
what was the difference?
Well, it seemed like the camera was pulled further back. The health bar was done completely different. At this point, the health bar was like a half moon shape underneath your character, and it would shrink down as you were getting hit. And it was really tough to tell when you were getting hit and how low your.
So you
health
think the
bar
new
was.
version's better?
It just aesthetically, it looks like the HUD and UI is much better.
But I didn't feel like it was really a fighting game. It felt just more like a brawler, but a really simple brawler. Not as simple as another brawler we saw last night.
Well, I think you were going to say something about the control system. I think.
Well, it uses 2 sticks, and you kind of take it or leave it.
I don't know why it has dual stick control. It seemed like there was a lot of games that had dual stick control that didn't necessarily need it.
Well, I think the control subject is one that I wanted to touch on, because one of the universal elements of all the games that I checked out, other than Carnivale, which because of its simplicity didn't fall victim to this, was controls that didn't feel as good as you expect in a polished final game. And you could say, okay, well,
they aren't polished final games yet either.
Coliseum's done, right?
Nothing can be 100% done, and actually, Coliseum. The guy, I was told by the CEO of that company that they're actually the guys are still in Sweden crunching on it, getting it ready for.
So it could still change.
XNA 3.0 actually came out today.
Oh wow!
Well, yesterday when this podcast goes up, and things still have to be shoved through that. I mean, the games could technically be done, but they still have to be shoved through that, gone through the processes, and packaged for release. So they're close to done. If they're going to make launch for the new Xbox experience on November 19th, I mean, these games are largely done. But yeah, I would still give them a little bit of a.
But something that I've talked to a lot of development teams about when I go on studio visits, and you see a big production team has a significant amount of resources devoted to just getting the controls right. Tuning
and QA departments,
tuning the way the controller is pulled, tuning the sensitivity of the sticks and how they interact with the variables that are being put into the game.
What games had really bad controls that you felt?
Oh, Streets of Fury, my personal favorite.
Streets of Fury. I walked by, and Nelson, who works at Game Videos, was playing it, and I look at this game, which looks like a Pit Fighter meets Renegade Brawler.
You know what I described it as? Like, it's as if this game was made in an alternate history universe where 3DO won.
Yeah, and what I said to Nelson is, did you just make this game since you got here?
You know what? And the weird thing about the game is, it's first of all, it's hard to tell how ironic it is. There's definitely an element of irony.
It's made by French people.
Yeah, it's a French developer.
So
French people understand irony, I think.
I don't know.
But the thing is, it's really derivative of Guardian Heroes, which is strange because that's a really good game.
Yeah.
So they clearly.
Well, it has 3 planes of combat. However, when you move between one plane to the next, your character becomes 40% smaller. So it automatically looks ridiculous.
I guess we should explain what the game is. It's like a classic side-scrolling brawler,
with 2 characters wearing hoodies, and they're digitized.
There's 2 character models digitized. Looks like straight out of Pit Fighter.
Way of the Warrior.
Yes.
old MK. Yes.
Yeah.
And the interesting is the good guys are white and the bad guys are the exact same character model. Only everything's been turned black.
Yeah. I don't know. It was bone
okay,
simple.
so there's 3 planes. Anyone who's played Guardian Heroes knows about this. So there's the 3 planes. You can go between them as much as you want, and the enemies go between them. Sometimes when you punch people, they go backwards, but never forwards.
Right.
There's button combos, and there's advanced button combos, and then there's special moves. And it's about running at about half the speed it needs to run at to be a acceptable brawler.
Yeah.
There's definitely some button lag to it.
And I will say, as much as we like Weapon of Choice, there were some slowdown problems on the bosses. Hopefully they'll fix those. But yeah, the Streets of Fury
Weapon of Choice just looks like it needs that polish push.
Yeah.
This needs the we need to make this game be twice as fast as it is right now to be playable.
When you're not as good as a boring like a C grade Genesis brawler. Like I'd rather play Growl for Genesis than Streets of Fury for real.
What I like about Streets of Fury is when you punch the guys, because they clearly just took video of their friends and whatever.
Right.
When you punch the guys and they pass out, they like gently kneel down onto the ground. It's they like didn't want to do falls in there.
My two favorite parts of the game is we actually beat.
You beat the whole game.
Beat the whole
I saw
game,
you.
and all you get is like this screenshot of like his friend doing a kung fu high kick.
Yeah.
And it's so bad.
But I thought that game was embarrassing and like,
Badly awesome.
Yes, no,
It shouldn't have been that.
I loved it because it was so.
It really
bad.
shouldn't have been.
But the other thing I liked about it is when you hit the R trigger, you had like a sprint move, but instead of sprinting, you like slid as if you're on ice, and you could hold the button down and just slide all over the place. And that is the way to play the game.
I think they could actually get the Blades of Fury license and
maybe
turn it into a
there was some
ice hockey.
and there were
brawling.
a bunch of other games. I don't remember all of them. But there was one called An Awesome Game. You played that?
Yeah, there was one called An Awesome
It really
Game.
wasn't that awesome. It wasn't terrible, but
here's the thing.
It
The
should
one
have
thing
been called the game you're about to play.
I think there's going to be a lot of cool games on
Yes,
this. There's a lot of
yeah.
people, but the thing is, when you look at the crop that Microsoft handpicked to show to the press, it does make you go, this is the very beginning of this. We're not, you know what I mean? Like, don't expect to be blown away.
I've had a subscription to XNA for about 6 months now, and I've been kind of keeping tabs on it. And it's weird. Like, it's still a really, really small community. And, hopefully when these games launch with the new Xbox dashboard, it'll get a lot more traction with the gamers at large, and hopefully it'll get bigger and more people will develop for it.
People who are in high school and college who are in CS and want to get into game development, do they not know about this?
No, they do actually. And Microsoft made a big point last night of saying that 700 schools are using this, over 700 in their CS programs to some extent, which is defined as there is a class in the program in which they're required to use it.
Okay.
I tell you this, I'm more excited to see the clever ones, which is probably why Carnivale appeals to me more than the games like Weapon of Choice, because Weapon of Choice is just another riff on a sort of game that's been...
I didn't feel Carnival was clever. I don't know. It seems like it seemed incredibly derivative to me and simple, and it's obvious. It was an obvious game.
I mean, it definitely felt like some Flash games I've played before.
Yeah.
But it also added in some elements of strategy, and which I thought
it
brought a little extra.
It functioned. It functioned properly.
I will say what they didn't have in any of the games, which is, and I'm definitely with Shane more on like I'd prefer Weapon of Choice to Carnival, like in the broad strokes. Nothing that surprised me and me go, what the hell is this? Oh, cool! Like there was no like.
Yeah, I mean there was another Geometry Wars ripoff. I'm like that's not necessary.
There's enough of those on the real Xbox Live Arcade. I don't know why.
What was the game? I didn't actually get a chance to play it. I just saw it in my peripheral vision. It looked kind of like either Spore or Super Mario Galaxy.
I played that game.
What was it?
I don't remember the name. It's terrible.
Yeah,
you're jumping on these little spheres, and it said like collect a tulip and a flower to make a watermelon, and like you didn't even stand on the spheres. You're like standing like.
Is that the one where like the sphere rotated rather than the character?
Yeah, and you couldn't move left and right.
That reminded me of? No one will remember this game. It reminded me of Floating Runner.
Farting Runner, yes, which got like textures from America. Remember? Yeah, that game, whatever it's called, avoid.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good.
Download the free demos. Actually, my recommendation would be when these games come out, download your free demos, try them out, get involved in a community sense.
Yeah.
Like you guys may not be making games out there. Some of you, I'm sure, are, but get involved and give feedback. And it's only good for everyone if these games
exactly. And there are plenty of people out there that may have really good ideas for games and design, but don't know how to code. But you can you can meet up with people in the forums that know how to code, but not necessarily know how to design a game. And just meet up and have like impromptu teams crank out games.
Did anybody play Word Soup? I didn't get to play it, but it's a different genre.
Actually, it's well liked, and it's interesting. It's based on a bar game from England, like a bar video game where you can win money out of the machine in England by making the matches.
I wonder if any Facebook apps will just get brought over to XNA. Really simplistic. Kind of stuff.
They could.
God, I hope not.
Well,
that'd be a cheap
it'd be hard when you think about it. Like Facebook apps aren't really entertaining. The entertainment factor is based on the fact that they tie into your network of friends. So
they're more like annoying because you get those goddamn invites.
What's the word one? That's good.
Yeah, that's a word count or no, not word count.
There's a good.
Yeah, but that's the one I was thinking about because there was a game last night that looked.
They
like
tie into a network. So unless you have like a shitload of Xbox Live friends, I don't know. But I will say you will see more of this sort of like fuzzy lined melting between the lines of what's a console game, what's a casual PC game, what's a Facebook app, blah, blah, blah. That's going to get all goopy in the next couple years.
Let's wrap up the community game piece and let me just go quickly over the Dreamville Play winners. So Carnivale won. That got the developer Team Gambit of Singapore $40,000. And then second place went to Battle Tennis. That was by Jose.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I saw that. It
think
looked
it's just
a lot
play
like
it.
Mario Tennis.
Yeah, totally.
That's by Jose Alberto Gomex of Venezuela. And the side-scrolling Weapon of Choice by Nathan Fouts. Those were the second-place winners. And then last year's winner, David Fluke, also earned an honorable mention for his game Blow, which I didn't see. Did you see Blow? Anybody see Blow?
No.
Nobody
Not
saw
see
Blow.
Oh, I remember the Sphere game has the word Chile. It must be from Chile, and it's not good. Chile something. Chile ball or something. Yeah.
All right. Moving right along on to retail packaged games. Go ahead, hater man. Lay it out. Lay it out for us.
You know, I'm very conflicted. I've been playing Resistance 2 all week. And
you hate it.
Hate is way too strong a word.
You used loathe earlier.
There are segments of the game that I do loathe. And I should preface this by saying that I really do enjoy the co-op. I think the co-op is the best part of the game. My reason for saying that is it's the one part of the game where I feel like Insomniac has definitely put their stamp. Like, they own this mode. It's not like anything else that's been in a shooter before. The multiplayer, I think, is really good. The 60-player stuff totally works. Like, you never feel overwhelmed. Like, there's too much stuff.
The maps are the right size.
And it's not just that, but like, you rarely encounter more than like 8 people from the other team. So you never feel like it's like ridiculous. It works really well.
Really, you should play the beta, because there's a lot of people playing team deathmatch, and it's a freaking annoying as hell.
I didn't play that much team deathmatch because I've played that in the beta. Yeah,
it's annoying as hell.
I agree. The team deathmatch doesn't work as well as some of the other modes do. The more objective-based ones. I think those are the way to go if you're going to play 60 players. Otherwise, knock it down to 40 or even less. But I've been playing through single-player campaign, and I have to say, like, there is something about this game that just feels sterile. It doesn't pull me in like most top-tier shooters do.
And it's because you're not any good at it, right?
Obviously.
I mean, don't the set pieces impress, or is that a problem? Or
you know what, the set pieces,
because they've really pushed those.
Sure, you know? But ultimately they might as well just be animated skyboxes, because there are some you interact with, but like most of the boss battles are basically set pieces that you can shoot them all day long, but unless you're shooting them the right time with the right weapon, you don't do any damage.
So the giant like behemoth monster that we saw at E3, have you done that part?
Yeah.
Is it more polished, more fun than it appeared to be at E3?
You basically just run around with your rocket launcher, and when he'll grab you certain times, and then you shoot. And if you have ammo, great. If you don't, you die. And ultimately, like there's not much strategy involved with fighting him. It's very linear, very straightforward.
Really, because I mean, one of the things that to me stood out about the first Resistance was the level design really played to the strengths of having a varied weapon system, where you had to utilize different weapons in different tactical situations in order to be successful. Is that doesn't come through in the sequel?
I mean, there are sequences in the game where it's pretty obvious what weapons you're supposed to use in every section, because 30 seconds before you go into the section where you need the weapon, you just randomly run across it. Like, the game is out and out telling you need to use a shotgun right now, or you need to use a Lark. Graphically, the game is very inconsistent.
Like, the level in the forest looks really good.
It does, but there are other levels where it just... When you after in part of the forest level, you go through all these houses, and maybe it's intentional. Maybe they're supposed to be like kind of like generic tract houses that all look the same, but they all look the same. And the game never really gets the atmosphere right. You're going through this like town, and there are all these TVs on. There are people dead in their beds where they've been killed, but you never get like the sense of unease and creepiness. I mean, there are all these pods where the zombie guys roll out, and 28 days later, zombies run at you. And that's actually another disappointment. Those zombies are so painfully easy to kill. In certain sequences,
they're zombies.
Yeah, but like there's only one section in the game in Chicago where they offered any challenge whatsoever.
Like Scooter was telling me early on, you fight these invisible enemies like predators or one-hit kills, and you hear them coming in 5.1, and you're really scared.
Yeah.
That sounded exciting and fun. Not something I've seen in a lot of shooters.
But it's completely scripted, and they go to the same spot every single time.
Oh.
I mean,
so the AI is a problem, you think?
The AI, I feel like the AI's kind of... I don't know. It's so situational, where the AI does the same thing every time. They also see you the second you step out in the open, no matter how far away you are, and they instantly are shooting you and are really accurate, which a lot of games have problems with that. But the same gun I'm using takes way longer to kill them than the same gun they're shooting to me kills me really quickly. There are also a few sequences where you run across these really, really powerful characters, but because the game doesn't really have a cover system per se, it can be really difficult because your crouch with the default control scheme, you can change it, but the default control scheme, crouch and run are the same button. They're the L2. And,
Right. I'm not having it. You had trouble with that? You didn't like it?
Well, it's not that I didn't like it, but there are sequences when you're just trying to control your character
Is it
quickly.
contextual? How do you know if you're going to
You hold L2 to run, you tap it to duck down.
Weird.
But
It works fine. I've been playing the beta. I've had no problem with that at all. It's like tap L2, you crouch, tap L2, you uncrouch.
when you're in
hold L2
a
and
heated firefight, it's very easy to do the wrong thing or have it not register correctly. And
all of the online I've been playing has just been firefights.
you get well, you know what? I guess
I'm just saying it's different, but you can remap it.
I've used two different controllers, and I've had the same problem with
The
both
big problem I
controllers.
have with the control system is how easily, when I'm playing, especially in one of those fights,
You melee?
it's like
Yes.
the fucking right stick click
R3 is
so,
melee?
It's
Yeah.
so
Can you
sensitive.
remap it?
You can remap every single button, and that's awesome. I'm so glad. I think every shooter should have it. And you can actually even unhinge crouch and run to have them on separate buttons. You can
Yeah, I mean, I got to put melee someplace. I got to have nothing under that R3 because it's so trigger happy. It's like I'm just trying to sight in the gun and boom, I'm melee.
And I don't necessarily blame Insomniac. I just it sticks too loose on the PS3
the
controllers.
PS3 controller is never ideal for shooters compared to 360.
Wow.
I mean, the sticks.
It's not what it's designed for.
Right.
I mean,
it works, and you have to kind of like play.
right.
It's designed to be
about
as
it.
general purpose as possible, basically.
Right.
Just,
So before we rock out of here on Resistance 2, I want you to go back just for a second, and because I don't think I sort of cut you off, and we kind of got sidetracked a little bit on your comment about the game's initial impression to you being sterile. Is that a visual thing? Is it a
you know what? It's because just I don't know. This is how I described it talking earlier when we shot the One Up Show segment. Is that I feel like Insomniac. It seems like they were so eager to take like the best parts of every single game to put it into like this cornucopia of shooter that the game ends up not having an identity of itself, and it suffers for it because you recognize like they got this from Half-Life, they got this from Call of Duty, they got this from BioShock, but like ultimately I think the game, I feel like the experience in this universe would be much more interesting if Insomniac, rather than taking so much stuff for other games, just made their own game. Like, just put their own spin on it. I feel like the game loses some of its soul because of that.
All right, I'll buy that.
And
I'm really looking forward to playing it. You know, I'm super looking forward to playing it.
The game, and I'm not saying the single player is bad. There are a lot of frustrating sections. Some of the enemy encounters are really unbalanced, where it's just incredibly difficult to get through, and then there are other sections where it's super easy. It's a weird balancing, but ultimately, I think the single player is just competent, and it's borderline good. It's not great, and I think that's where the game suffers. Like co-op really works, and I think online multiplayer really works. Like I'm really surprised that after spending a lot of time with the multiplayer, like I was expecting Left 4 Dead, Gears of War 2. I'd pretty much only play those games multiplayer, but I plan on playing some Resistance 2 multiplayer.
Do you plan
this
on
fall.
finishing the single player?
Yeah, I do want to finish it. I'm pretty far along at this point, but.
It could improve. It could still improve.
Talking to Scooter, who beat it in GC, who's further along than I am, neither of them seem to indicate that the game changed dramatically. And like the whole point of scale, like it feels like almost so much of a misnomer because it never takes advantage of the scale. It doesn't give you any opportunities to use the scale to your advantage to like find alternate paths. The game is super linear, and that's fine, but it gives you this impression that it's more than it is.
So you are in like big cities and stuff. You'd think that there'd be some.
But you're also
paths.
you're also in a lot of identical looking warehouses and corridors. There's a lot of that too. So
that I don't like actually.
Like I said, it's a mixed bag. If a lot of people will like this game, and if you only own a PS3, it's a really good shooter. You should definitely pick it up. If nothing, just for the co-op multiplayer. If you don't have the options, but I just think there are other games out this fall that
Interesting.
are just going to offer more as far as campaign single player storyline.
The co-op though is awesome. I have to say, like in the beta, the co-op I have been playing a ton of because the co-op is a blast.
And it is key that you play with people who are playing like their roles correctly. If not, you're going to die. It's going to be really frustrating.
And the shit that Brian has done, or like the community team in general has done there to integrate the MyResistance.net stuff is really cool. Like, it has a really
we got
cool
a chance to check out the new website that's going to go up day one, and it's really cool.
Create your own blog entries. It brings all of your kind of character and objective stuff in the game into the net presence.
And I certainly am not writing this game out at all because Insomniac. One thing they proved with Resistance 1, they are like keen on adding things to the retail product post-launch. They were still adding stuff to Resistance 1 a year after it launched.
Right.
And there are not many developers that are still doing that. They added like screenshot functionality to the original Resistance like months after release. So obviously they're going to take feedback from community, people that are playing the game and implement, hopefully.
Big Fun says Resistance 2 not so fun.
It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. It really is.
All right, who else been playing stuff? I've been playing Fable 2 again, so we can talk about that some
haven't
more
finished
if
it yet?
anybody's interested. No, I mean, I don't know.
I hear if you barrel through, it doesn't take long.
You know
It's
what?
still like a 10 or 11 hour game. Oh, that's another thing with Resistance 2. Like, Scooter beat the game in 8 hours.
Okay,
So it's
I mean,
shorter.
for a shooter, 8 hours,
which is fine. But I mean, when they're promising like 15 hours,
are they? I mean, I haven't
10 to 15 hours, which I guess 8 and 10 is similar.
Like
but
those sort of promises during development, I sort of go in one ear and out the
right.
other. It's like, okay,
and I really
whatever.
pay attention to that stuff. As long as like when I'm done playing the game, I feel like it was a complete experience. I never really complain about it, but. I don't know, and I guess I should point out, like for our Scooter's perspective, like with the way this review thing shook out, we got the game on Monday,
right?
And the embargo was up on Thursday,
so he pushed through it hard.
That is not ideal. It's not ideal for a multiplayer shooter, stuff like that.
It's what we do.
I agree, but in an ideal world, we would have more time to spend with, especially the online portions of games.
Yeah, but you know what? Scooter's a professional. He knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
He's reviewed a bunch of games.
And
I don't think that's a big issue.
Playing a significant amount of this game, I totally agree with his review.
Yeah, okay.
Like score wise, B+, A-, it's you flip a coin and you decide which one you go with. Who knows? But like either way, I think the game's really good.
Well, I mean, I think you decide for yourself where it falls, and that's where he felt like it fell.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm good with that.
So, have you changed your opinion on Fable 2 at all, or
no? I'm having a blast with it. You asked me, like you said, like if you barrel through it. I have no desire to barrel through it. It's like I actually dick around in it. I do like the wood chopping. I do some of the blacksmithing.
5-star bartender. Saying.
Go and do bartending, and I have to say, one of the parts I thought I would really dislike, and I slowly came around to. I've completely come around to, which is the breadcrumb thing, because I turn it down really super light when I'm off fucking around.
Yeah.
And then when I'm done fucking around, I want to get back to like the main quest. I just go into the options, turn up the brightness, and be like, oh, that's where to go, and then turn it back down to normal. It's like it actually relieves for me the tension of going and dicking around, because I can go do all that stuff, and it's like I never worry about like, oh, am I going to be able to get back on track? Am I going to remember what I was doing?
You're referencing the breadcrumbs reminded me that you failed to make the comparison that you really wanted to make of another shooter that had a blue arrow that told you where to go.
Well, I mean, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but it is weird.
I think you should make this comparison.
It is weird. Like my thoughts on Resistance 2 when I was thinking about it is, it's such a different experience to single player versus multiplayer. It actually reminded me a little of, and I'm going to
don't say it,
Perfect Dark Zero.
Oh, he said it.
And now I am not saying that the single player is as bad as Perfect Dark Zero's, but it does have that similar like sterility to it.
Next week on How Many People Can David Ellis Piss Off in One Podcast, we'll be featuring what games. Who do you want to piss off? What developers do you want to piss off next week?
I don't want to piss off anyone. It's just it's how I feel about the game, man.
Just give me a hard time,
would our listeners rather me blow smoke up their ass? I don't think so.
Straight shooter.
Straight shooter.
A Maverick.
You are a true maverick.
He is a true maverick, isn't he?
So Fable 2, that's
Maverick.
I mean, you know what? I think the time to revisit Fable 2 will be after I finish the game, and then I can.
I want to borrow your copy when you're done.
You can borrow my copy. I'm having fun with it. I think I really am enjoying Fable 2 a lot.
Yeah, I'm having a great time with it. The only thing the only thing that starts to disrupt it for me is the what's the region? Is it Cockney that the accents are? They're all so over the top. It starts to get a little silly.
Yeah,
I expect one to bust out with like, "Good evening, Governor."
I know. I was talking to someone, and he said he was talking to someone else, and it sounded like you're just walking through an entire world filled with British rednecks.
Yeah,
You are.
Yeah,
I mean, aren't you?
country.
Have you
folk.
played it at all?
No, I haven't yet. I have a shrink wrap copy. I'm so far behind now that I don't have to play games under pressure anymore. I'm like Mr. Leisurely Pace. I'm still playing Tales of Vesperia.
And enjoying it?
Oh yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, it's not, there's no news here. I don't have any great insight to it that I think that hasn't been shared. I really like it. God, I think Yuri's like the best main character the series has ever had.
Because he's actually cool.
He's fucking cool.
He's not a child.
He's very cool and reasonable, and he has like a set of ideals, and the play between him and Flynn is really cool. His like childhood friend, and it's
To be honest with you,
good.
Christian, we haven't talked much about Tales. So if you want to let her rip on Tales,
I mean, I played it. I reviewed it. I think it's the best JRPG on 360 still. I mean, things have come out since it, and I think it's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not like amazingly mind-blowingly graphically intensive, but it has some really nice vistas, really nice style.
how's the difficulty on it? Because I mean, I remember Tales of Destiny kicking my ass.
I think that they've toned down since the old PS1 days. I think it's definitely doable. There was like only one difficulty spike, and it was real early on. So I think it's pretty non-grindy, non-super difficult, but not so easy that you're just like asleep at the wheel. It's like,
and the combat, it's action oriented, but it's fun. It's you have to pay attention, but not that much attention. Mm-hmm. It's a good balance.
You have to pay attention enough to get yourself. You have to pay attention and like make sure you're paying attention and executing correctly. But you don't have to worry that you're like if you let off a little bit, you're going to die or something. So, I mean, one thing I like about RPGs is that I don't have to engage with them so intensely. As a genre, I actually find that to be good. I know some people think that that's boring, but...
Well, I think that was one of the problems with Infinite Discovery. I don't know have you played that yet?
No, I think I'm skipping that one.
Yeah, you probably should. Because, in order to do, your other party members' attacks, it was so complicated. You had to press all these buttons. It takes you out of it, kind of,
And they're improving the AI in Tales and the customization options in every... It's a series that's gone through incremental refinements all the time, and I think that Vesperia is just a nice, if people might have skipped it, they might have been waiting for Infinite Undiscovery, they might be waiting for Last Remnant.
Yeah,
my advice would be Tales.
I mean, we've already seen the sales, and Tales didn't sell the way I thought it would, and I think
how much did it sell? Have we seen the numbers?
The rumor was 35.
35 is what I heard the first.
Which it isn't enough. I mean, Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon. I think Tales is actually a better game than those. And if you bought Lost Odyssey and liked it, buy Tales of Vesperia.
All right, that's a pretty ringing endorsement. Who else been playing something interesting?
Well, repeats from last week. I'm still playing MotorStorm because the retail is out now, and
so
6-axis control is in.
I know.
They put it back in. We put on the review today. We put a editor's note.
So Ryan's back on the MotorStorm.
It's hidden in there. You have to go into the wireless controller options and choose Type 3, and then you can do motion control.
That is so bizarre.
And steer off a cliff immediately.
Because PR even confirmed to us.
Yeah, PR confirmed to me they're taking it out, and then it's back in. So if you're complaining about that, and also as I say on the One Up Show thing we had, it's the first game I've played to have the new custom soundtracks that use the cross media bar, which are awesome because you just press.
It was so funny because you were totally confused. You're like, how do I do this?
And because they've never, it's usually in game, like Wipeout or Burnout. It's like you're doing all these arcane things to make custom soundtracks.
But if you use custom soundtracks on 360, it's like almost the exact same experience.
Yeah, I mean I've done that, but I'd say, for PS3, trust me, it's a revelation to finally be able to suddenly just pick your songs and playlists instantly and have them play. So it's very exciting.
Welcome to our world.
And the other game I'm still playing that I think still needs a lot of PR is Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. It is... I still like Aria of Sorrow a little better, but it's so good, so refreshing, so challenging.
You were taken to task a little bit for your spoilerific what you've been playing last week.
Seriously, if you think that at the end you go to a castle as a spoiler, you're insane.
Hey guys, when you beat Legend of Zelda on NES, there's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Oh,
people are pretty spoiler sensitive.
Not sure if you knew
and
that.
It can be funny,
right?
But
the big game I'm playing this week is Little Big Planet, and it's been a tumultuous week because I finally got my hands on it on Monday. And the servers weren't supposed to be up yet. They were supposed to go up Tuesday. So on Tuesday, the servers went up for 20 minutes.
and then
maybe an hour.
It was a couple hours.
We were all playing it, and the servers got so overloaded, and you're always online, even when you're playing a single player, that it was affecting the menus. Your single player game was slowing down, so they had to turn them off because it was ruining everything. And so for a full at least 36 hours after that, no servers.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it I couldn't mention it last week. Alex said, I was chatting with him, that within 20 minutes of them turning on the servers, they had 1,000 concurrent levels being uploaded to the servers. Within 20 minutes. I mean, how do you even have that many levels ready to go? It's
amazing. Every game that comes out, it seems like no one's ever ready for the server load. How long does it take?
It's very difficult. It's more complicated issue. I mean, I understand that it's very frustrating, and that they should have anticipated. I mean, the success of this game was anticipated by essentially everyone,
right. And the success of the beta should have even further prepared them for it.
Well, and they had similar challenges in the beta because they did a rolling. Rolling,
right?
They rolled out the
when they kept ramping up the code.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to say that.
I mean,
so every so often they did another few thousand add-ons, and when they got around 30,000, all of a sudden there was a problem. I think it was right on the time. I think Game Daily was ones who were putting out their codes about that time.
Yeah,
and people were logging in, and suddenly it's like, wow, the system's not really working, or I can't get logged in, and it's also impacting what I can do offline.
Well, the silver lining is even when the servers were down, you could still play through the single player game, which is really good, and you could edit your own levels and get them ready. So when they finally went up again on Wednesday. A lot of people were uploading new levels, and they've been up most of the time since then. They went down a little bit on Thursday, but I've played a bunch of new levels. They're awesome. And
I finally got a chance to play it today. Like, I hate that I haven't been able to play it till now.
Yeah.
And, like, despite, like, you can criticize the jumping, criticize some of the
the jumping is a little better in the final
It is
version.
better. It is better. But, like this as a concept totally works. I think it's
when you saw I'm working on a new level, I think it's a lot better. It's a lot better than my previous beta
I assumed
level.
you just stole the level from someone else.
No, it's a real
was
level.
just tweaking it to make it your own. But it actually made sense.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Like once again, I wake up excited to play the game.
I think
it's been a really long time.
Holler 2.0 shows promise.
It's a whole new concept. Do
you wake up excited to play the game, or do you wake up excited to create, or
all
both?
of it? I
wake up excited to see when the servers are back up, see what's out there.
Well, in the new levels I've played, and if you're on it, you should play Azure Palace. You should play Luminous Gardens. These are both amazing levels. Heist 3. It all takes place in a house. It's like an adventure game. Just to see the things people are doing.
The contrast.
There's a Gradius level that's really awesome.
I think you cannot ignore the contrast here of the community game system for Xbox coming out and Little Big Planet coming out, because
they're so different,
they're
though.
Totally different approach, but they approach this they approach this new element of not really garage game making.
No, but I feel like Little Big Planet,
small time.
I feel like Little Big Planet democratizes game creation for the user, whereas XNA isn't doing that precisely.
Right. Well, here's the idea, right? So this is how Microsoft looks at community games. They look at it as the indie film movement from the late 80s, early 90s. They look at it as saying people who have the expertise to make professional products, i.e. the same as indie filmmakers,
but no outlet.
Right. They made small films, but they were still film professionals.
Yeah, this is a place where you have to know C#, you have to be a programmer, you have to be able to crunch code.
And I feel like Little Big Planet is almost kind of like the YouTube.
Right. And they definitely are. And those are good analogies. And the thing is that they're both going to be really beneficial to games, and it's good that we have both.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what I think it makes Little Big Planet, especially from a user perspective, really great is that you've got professional game team doing things like the controls and the interface and all those elements that would take a lot of time.
The physics. The game is physics ultimately, and then they're so good,
which frees you as a creator, as an amateur creator, or even a somewhat developed creator, to go in there and just do that part of it, just do the creation.
And this was my first time with the retail game. Like, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's
so good. It's like esoteric and crazy and multicultural and like.
I need to buy this game.
Oh, and there are levels like I know, Christian, you're a big Super Mario World guy, and like the game is set up. The single player game is a lot like that, and there are tons of surprises and just really clever concepts, like things.
I played the beta, but then I just haven't. I didn't buy a game.
Well, there you go.
So that's what
are you going to do? You get to play games casually now. You have a good time.
Yeah, I know.
So you get to enjoy it.
I'm like a person now.
Holy cow, it's amazing, isn't it? All right, anybody got any games that we want to get on here before we get out and go on to the next segment for 4-Minute Warning?
I don't have anything else.
All right, give us a little break here, and when we come back, we'll do 4-Minute Warning. We'll be right back with that. All right, we're back and ready to do 4-Minute Warning. We're going to get right into it, starting off with Sneaky Gopher.
All right.
Sneaky Gopher says, around this time last year, you guys had a 4-Minute Warning with Guy Kroll, and the question was brought up, is 2007 the best year in gaming? You guys went on to say how it was too early to tell and that every year feels like it's the best year ever. Now a year has passed and 2008 is wrapping up into what has become a fantastic year. So do you think 2007 was the best year in gaming?
I think at the time I said that 1997 was the best year in gaming and that 2001 had no chance of being the best year in gaming.
What?
2001 or 2007?
1997.
97.
But no, I think 2008 is actually better than 2007. I do. I think there are more better games. This fourth quarter is tons of new creative things. Things like Little Big Planet and Spore.
Yep.
Mirror's Edge.
Mirror's Edge, totally new.
What made 2007 the best year? Quick recap. Halo?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of love behind that.
Call of Duty 4.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
BioShock.
Super Mario Galaxy.
That was a good game, too. Yeah, I mean, Wii is a little weak this year, but I think across the handhelds, PS3 and 360...
And by a little weak, you mean it's really weak.
It's kind of weak.
I think addressing the concept that every year is the best year in gaming, it kind of is, because every year when do we have a bad year in gaming? We don't. When I was at Games Radar, we did a feature, and we were picking the best years in gaming, and we couldn't run out, because, every year has
even when you're at the tail end of a cycle, that's when you get some of the really cool games, But
I feel like,
I think when things launch, there's a lot of zeitgeist and excitement about that. So people, it's so exciting, but it's launch goggles, and usually those games aren't even that good, so...
Right.
if anything, next year should be even better.
Yes, next year should be better.
Since everything will be more mature by then.
Right.
So.
I'm gonna go with 2012 for the best year.
I think 2012
is that when your one console future finally comes
Yes,
to
that me and Dak will have one console future. It'll be 2012, best year in gaming ever.
2012 will be pretty good. But
I don't know, but so which
Isn't that when the world ends?
How about this one? Which ones do you guys look back on fondly? Like for me, because I was a huge fan of the system and really enjoyed, I thought it was like one of the most exciting launches ever. I thought 99 was fantastic because of the Dreamcast. I mean, I just
99. I had the Dreamcast all that year.
But
Actually, I got mine in January because I got Japanese ones. So
Yeah, I got a Japanese
great
one too.
year.
by the end of 2000, though, it was tragic, and like those highs and lows.
98 is commonly cited as an amazing year because it was Half-Life, MGS, Ocarina of Time, StarCraft.
See, I'm saying
Dude, how can you like? You
Yeah,
can
98.
almost not argue with that.
97, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy VII.
I know. That's my point. Every year is the goddamn best year in gaming. Get over it, Sneaky Gopher.
1982, not so good.
All right, question number 2 comes from I have no idea what this is.
That would be
your Fajic.
Your Fejic.
Your Fejic says, do you guys find your tastes in games narrowing as you get older? I'm finding that I play a lesser selection of genres and therefore games nowadays than I did 10 years ago. Something has to have good word of mouth now for me to even consider stepping out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
Really?
Well, let me put it like this. I used to be really an idiosyncratic gamer with my own weird tastes. Then I became a journalist over the course of about 10 years, and I made an effort to broaden outside
I remember
my...
when you played Gears of War. I was like, are you still Christian Nut?
And the thing is, like, and as I found that the games that I like in genres that I like, have become disappointing. Like, there were no good JRPGs for a couple years, and that was my, mainstay genre, so I had to branch out. But I find that as I have less time and I pay for my games now, I'm back to being really selective again, because $60 is not an insignificant investment.
Agreed.
Not at all.
Yeah, so...
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I feel that I'm more willing to try different genres as I get older.
What I will say is that
know.
my tastes, I'm more aware of what I like in I really loved Half-Life 2, which, wouldn't have, in a superficial way, wouldn't seem like my kind of game. I became aware that what I like is design-oriented games. So I'd rather than say, oh, I like shooters or don't like shooters. It's more about what I like in a game, and then that might spam to different genres.
See, I totally agree with you on that.
Well, and Garnet, you're really old, so I mean, you should have the best answer here on this question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shane. I mean, for me, it's exactly like what Christian's saying, is I've just gotten better and increasingly more attuned to what I enjoy in a game, and really more mindful of how much time I actually have to play games and being more selective. And so if I get into a game and it's not going where I want it and I see that I'm not getting in the mechanic and it's not clicking, then I just say, you know what? I'm not going to put any more time into
One
this.
thing that has changed, I can't force myself through games that aren't good anymore. I used to be able Christian watched me beat Beyond the Beyond, and I probably couldn't do that anymore. I used to be able to make myself play a game forever.
I used to, when I was unemployed, underemployed, I would play 35 hours of an RPG that I didn't like.
Yeah, same here.
Which is retarded.
That's true.
Oh, excuse me. Differently able.
Right. So I guess I have become more discerning, but still more open-minded, I feel.
Yeah, I like to jump into different games. I think I find it even fun to jump into different games that give me a different experience. It's like I played a fuck ton of shooters. Yeah, I like shooters, but they do
you
sort
also
of
love
mold together.
Pixel Junk Eden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I agree with you completely. For example, I loved Crackdown, never thought I would. I didn't like GTA 4. It's not, ostensibly those games they're superficially similar, but they're not actually that similar.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I find that my tastes are actually expanding a little bit.
You're still a child.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely in this room I am.
Oh, hell.
But I find that I don't play as many RPGs, specifically JRPGs, than I used to.
There haven't been hardly any good ones.
And I think that gets to your point. I used to play a lot and actually enjoyed them, but there were a couple of years when I really didn't play any games at all. When I came back, I pretty much made a lot of shooters, but I find that I'm getting into Diablo now. I'm still playing that. I'm playing, I still play WoW, not as much as most people, and those are games that 5-6 years ago I wouldn't have even considered playing. So I think I'm still expanding. Maybe taste in gaming is somewhat like the universe. You have a big bang, you expand your horizons, then eventually it contracts as you get old.
Into a black hole of death.
Yes.
You know what's scary speaking of WoW is I paid for a character transfer today.
Whoa.
It's crazy.
What server are you on now? Or you want to give that out?
Not that one.
Okay.
But we still do have the I can't quit you
Is that
play
little
characters.
is that little Glee?
Little what?
Your character?
I don't care about your WoW character.
Anyway. Question number 3 comes from Dalatu, and he says, how much longer till Rock Band and Guitar Hero become DDR? The point that the point that the hardcore no longer care about each release, and it's really just a niche product within a niche product. Also, is this the year of being sold a new plastic guitar in that people are not longer willing to keep buying new instruments and stores are going to stop shelving them?
If they release Rock Band 3 with all new guitars and all new drums kit next year, they will lose a lot of support in the gaming community.
I think that obviously there's always going to be plastic instruments on the shelves because every year there's going to be people who didn't have previous ones buying them. It will probably proportionally decrease. That's just natural business.
I think the idea of like a Rock Revolution coming again, like a third competitor, I think that's going away. I think there isn't room on store shelves for like 3 or 4 different plastic guitars and drums.
Well, I think retailers are starting to push back too.
Well, so GameStop told me that they have 25 different SKUs. That means 25 different things they have to keep track of, different configurations.
Just for Guitar Hero?
Of music games this fall, which is Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and
that's a lot.
Yeah, that is crazy. And because it's on how many platforms? It's on 4 platforms. It's there's for Guitar Hero, there's the guitar drums, etc.
Guitar kit, drum kit, plain game by itself across 4 different platforms.
Obviously, from this year to last year, there's been a huge increase in the amount of music games, and I think it is reaching critical mass. I really do.
Let's address the first part of the question.
Okay.
First of all, become DDR, right? DDR actually is like a big mainstream success. The hardcore doesn't like it. That doesn't make it a niche. That makes it something other than a niche. I think there is an element of like the super hardcore nerdos who are only DDR fans, like Jared Ray types who like only like DDR.
Yes.
But like it's still got a broad audience of like small girls and whatever. The problem is that I think that Neversoft, not to insult them, I think they're a great developer, but look at what happened to Tony Hawk. It got more and more crazily over-focused, and I think there's a chance of them doing that with Guitar Hero unless they're very careful.
Yeah.
And I think they're smart people, so I'm sure they're trying to avoid that. But like things like the music editing mode and stuff, like I worry it's going to turn into like Tony Hawk's
creating your tracks
and all that stuff that got like the last one,
Underground 2, Magic,
whatever the last one was, that was over-focused and had all this depth that the audience didn't actually really care about, as opposed to evolving it in a way that the broad audience did care
If
about.
all you want is more music, well, we have distribution methods for that cost very little.
I think it's possible there won't be, there'll be
physical real SKUs for all
I don't know,
games.
like it's
I hope there aren't, but I think there will.
For a few years
I
at
agree
least.
with Shane.
I think there will have them every year because they're selling them a lot to people who aren't savvy. But at the same time, they can do DLC for
Right, but we know like Guitar Hero Metallica is coming out in a few months, and like why isn't that just a download? I mean, I, as a consumer, I don't want to buy all these games.
Yeah, but Guitar Hero Metallica will sell really well to people, and you have to think about like the limited storage on the Wii and stuff. Yeah, there's reasons. I mean, it's retail. It's part of the broader question of the changing retail market and stuff like that.
All right, but what about the plastic instruments then? To get onto the second point,
I think they'll still have them, just like in a decreasing, proportion.
I think that I almost completely disagree that there won't be new sets with new instruments. I think that there'll be Rock Band 3. It'll have new instruments. I mean, for one thing,
it'll have a 6th button.
I don't know about that, but I mean, the Guitar Hero drum set certainly threw down the gauntlet on the Rock Band drum set. I mean, I think we are all pretty much in agreement that drum set is superior.
Well,
so now Rock Band has to come back and counter that. And if it's going to be an arms race of plastic,
it already is a plastic guitar and drum arm race.
But who ultimately loses is the gamers that go out there and buy the sets and then have to buy more sets and new sets because the sets that were released initially were not as good.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious to see out of this is how the premium plastic guitar market expands, because
when you spend $200 on a guitar,
right? But if you spend $200 on a guitar, then you're pretty much buying, from what we've seen, a guitar that's good enough that you're not going to want any of the other ones. So as long as they're selling the games,
I think with the global economic collapse, I think people might not go out and spend $200 on Rock Band 2 and Guitar Hero 4 this Christmas, and there could be a lot of unsold bundles on shelves, and we'll see what happens.
And with the cost of fuel, cost of the economy stuff, like that could affect the cost to manufacture plastic guitars, which may make companies to manufacture fewer plastic guitars.
Wii Music rules all because you don't need any plastic.
All right, moving on to question number 4 from Dan UK. Says, do you guys think that Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo will learn from their failings from the current generation of consoles to benefit the next generation of machines, i.e. Microsoft with their hardware, Sony with their limited online functionality, and the Wii with lack of consistent and solid third-party developer commitment?
Well, Nintendo's not going to change.
Yes, no, yes. Or wait, yes, no, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, no, no.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yes, no, done.
I think yes, no. I think Microsoft obviously isn't going to make another Red Ring of Death. They've learned their lesson there, and I think Sony is now catching up finally to speed. Online. They're not going to go backwards on PS4 and have a worse service than PS3.
I wonder if Sony will learn from the potential downfall of including Blu-ray in their system, which still raises the price of the system. But you see,
Microsoft's going to include Blu-ray in their next system.
The Blu-ray movie market is not performing the way it should be.
What are you talking about? It's outperforming DVD.
No, it's not.
Over the same period of time. Yes, it is. You're wrong.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Check your facts.
You go check yours, dude. This isn't the argument we're having here, but
they're actually.
I'm sorry. I have to ask permission.
Do you really think that Blu-ray? Do you think the Blu-ray is driving up the price of the PS3 significantly?
And do you really think Blu-ray? Do you think Blu-ray penetration is slower than DVD was from when it was launched?
It absolutely is slower.
Shane,
and specifically, it has slowed considerably since HD DVD went away.
In the CEA update that I get, the daily newsletter that I get from them, there has been a lot of rumblings that Blu-ray hasn't been taken up well.
Within the first year,
there's going to be a lot of
maybe it's changed.
And honestly, I think there's a fair chance that one of these three systems could potentially be released. I mean, with more of a reliance on digital distribution.
But how about this? I mean, you brought up the Blu-ray thing. I mean, actually, I'd say it was a win for them because they were heralded universally, at least for the first year, as having the best Blu-ray player. And by the way, it's also a PS3. I mean,
but they never took advantage.
It benefits
of it.
the generation's far from over. Never took advantage of it. It's better to have a system that has better capabilities. I mean, whether we can argue or not, it's a give and take. It's a give and take situation. At the very worst, it's a give and take situation. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe the system's too expensive. Maybe they didn't. It's still in the process of shaking out.
I agree, but I think Microsoft will definitely learn. Their next system will have built-in hard drives. Every single system. Honestly, I think that was the biggest hardware mistake of this generation.
Will the next Xbox have a pay-to-play online service?
Like live? Yes.
Like live.
Yes, because they're not losing any. They're making money off of it.
14 million.
I mean, I get asked that
if
question
anything
all the
else,
time.
I think it probably. I mean, I don't have any real data about this, but I imagine it probably fosters a sense of community with the people who are in it. And again, my friend dropped it because he has a PS3 and a 360, and he stopped paying for live.
Well, I mean, the announcement that the Avatar store, where people who pay money to play online can pay money to buy things for avatars, was announced this week too. I mean, it's another pay more money thing for Microsoft. I don't know. I think consumers won't want to pay for
the broad question is
service.
Will the companies do things differently next time out? Of course they will. They're always learning, and the decisions they make, they're made well in advance, and they don't know how they're going to.
Except for Nintendo, we all agree that Nintendo isn't going to suddenly make this third-party renaissance of we want quality games from our third parties. It's not in their best interest to have third-party games.
Yeah, it's just not who they are.
But this has been a problem with Nintendo over multiple generations.
You call it a problem, they call it a strength.
I guess perceived problem from the hardcore would be a better way to phrase it.
Question number 5. This is from Crayman. Crayman asks, do you think the current state of the economy will have a negative effect on holiday sales figures? Will it hurt everyone, just Sony, everyone who's not Nintendo?
Well, before this week, everyone was like, oh no, game sales aren't being affected at all. And then here comes earnings reports. Here comes massive layoffs.
Yeah, we're going to talk about EA's
I think it is going to affect. I really do.
Yeah,
I really do.
I mean, I think it'll probably affect the tech game sector less so than other parts of the economy, but it has to.
One of the reasons games are well reputed, and this is totally true, for giving you a lot of entertainment value versus money investment. Like, you buy a game, you can play it for a long time. Yes, $60 is expensive, but then you can play the game a lot.
It's escapist, and if everything's depressing around you want to go escape
there's a lot
the world.
Of benefits, but at the same time, I mean, I think it's interesting to say, will it hurt everyone, just Sony, everyone is not Nintendo? It won't. No, I think Sony probably stands the most to be hurt because they still don't have the super, super compelling lineup, and they have the most expensive box. So,
and I don't have it in the news, but their UK business director guy was on record saying, I don't think the pricing of the PS3 is going to hurt it right now. I mean, we're in great shape selling it. I think the thing is that the staycation argument still works. I think that sales of video games will not be hurt as much as other sectors. But when mom and dad or you or anybody walks into the game store, if you would have bought 5 games last year, you might buy 3 this year.
And oddly, this weird economic situation could actually potentially help Nintendo because they have so much shovelware, and it's Similar to what happened in the mid 80s, where people would go in and buy Atari 2600 games for $2 or $3 a pop.
Okay.
If you see a game for $10 or $20, you're much more likely to pick that up than a $60 game.
I think cheaper games.
If you're not really into games.
Yeah, you know who's going to help? It's going to help GameStop. That's what's going to help because they have the shelves full of cheap used games.
Well, it's going to help lower price point games. It's going to hurt higher price point games. People aren't going to spend $140 for a chainsaw. People aren't going to buy the $79 version because it has a card in it or something. I think
totally
people are looking for bargains. People are going to be on Black Friday lining up for those good deals.
I think
on hardware.
limited editions will be hurt.
Yeah, and I think they should be actually. So.
And if you're a second tier publisher, you're also going to be pretty worried because the top level games, the Gears are still going to have the multi-million-dollar marketing budgets. They're still going to draw the millions of sales.
Right.
But if you're only buying those 3 games, you're not buying those other 2. Chances are those other 2 will be something like Legendary.
And I still think developers, I think this generation, the development costs have spiraled out of control far faster and far higher than I think anyone anticipated. And
how so?
It costs so much to develop.
I think we've been hearing that. I don't know. I mean, you guys may disagree. I think we've heard that argument for so long. I think that everyone's well aware.
I would say, they're aware of it by now. They're aware of it by now. Sorry to interrupt. They're aware of it, but I don't think that they still weren't prepared for it, so they're still dealing with it.
Exactly.
So, yes, they're aware of it. They've been aware of it, but there's still. I mean, people are still haven't shipped. In anywhere in the there's anywhere in the world rather. There's still people who haven't shipped their first next gen fully developed title.
The Japanese market is a perfect example of this.
I also think games that have a lot of replayability, like a WoW or a Little Big Planet, the kind of game you can buy one and play it for 6 to 12 months. That might be a good investment for holidays. Instead of buying 5 games for your kid, buy one that you can play forever.
Exactly. The more if it has a multiplayer component that you can play for months and months and months.
Yeah.
If it's more of a traditional single player you only play by yourself, I think it would affect and hurt that.
What about downloadable games? You think because of their price point that they'll get any bump, or is it still such a limited marketplace?
I think people who know about it will be more willing to spend $10 to get a quick fix, but the mass consumer doesn't have a lot of access to that right now.
You have to have high speed internet. Number one, if you're going to get it on PS3 or 360.
It does seem like it'd be
PC is a different market entirely.
It seems like it'd be a great opportunity for those games to reap some benefits, though. I mean, a Wipeout HD is a fucking awesome game,
bargain priced,
right? And it's at a great price. It seems like it'd be very desirable. What could they do to capitalize on that?
Market it. Those games aren't really marketed on mainstream.
The marketing downturn is really big.
Yeah.
That's one place people are really cutting is marketing. So I don't know.
Lean times.
Question number 6 from Carp Boy. Carp Boy says, can you envision a 4th console developer within the next generation? Conversely, do you think the playing field could get pared down to just 2?
Yes.
Or do you see games pervading other platforms, mobile phones, browser games, etc., so thoroughly that a dedicated console becomes archaic?
Christian, you're supposed to wait till the question's over before you start
I was
answering.
being quick.
So would you repeat your answers for us?
Will there be a 4th console developer?
No.
Will there be 2?
That's possible. I mean,
and
do you think it could be? That's his question. I don't think it's going to happen.
That'll get pared down?
No.
Not the next.
And I think there is a potential for a 4th foolish person entering this market.
I don't.
who?
Like
think about
a 3DO,
for fuck's sake,
a Phantom. I don't know. Like anything's possible.
Well, okay.
An N-Gage 5. I don't know.
But in this economic, where we are with the economy, you're going to spend that kind of money on R&D.
Think about the R&D that it'll cost exactly to compete with Xbox 720 and PS4 or whatever. Like maybe
Wii 180.
Actually, someone might see more of an opportunity.
A Wii competitor.
Yes, exactly. To make a crappy system with
even lower price point, very casual.
What companies in the world could do this?
I could tell you right now. If there's a 4th console, or if there's a 4th platform, it will be the iPhone.
Apple.
The iPhone will be the 4th
that sort of goes
platform.
into the last part of the question.
Will a dedicated console become archaic? Hell no, it won't. I mean, it'll continue to evolve as the boxes in our living rooms
I think Christian was talking
evolve.
about the DC games pervading other platforms, mobile phone, browser games, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, right. No, of course not. A games console will not become archaic, though people will tell you that it is. There's this guy, Alex St. Joseph, who runs that Wild Tangent company. He was always braying about the death of console games, and it's
braying is an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
That was not the time. Sorry, I just did it by accident.
There's a lot going on. I don't think that this stuff is going to. I don't know if it's going to shake out permanently. Period. I don't think it's going to shake out soon. But with the increasing field, it's going to affect things.
But don't you think things like Steam and Roid are, speaking to his last point of dedicated consoles becoming archaic? If there are other ways to play these games besides buying a box, we see third parties getting behind this a lot. I don't know. I think it is. It's slow to start, but in 10 years' time, I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, we have to talk. I think the point is these are good questions. They're further out than next console generation.
Right.
I think there
I
will
agree.
be another.
I think it's a generation after that.
Yeah. So. But, of course, like the iPhone is going to become a serious gaming platform. I still think that probably the iPhone demographic is still probably like young professionals in cities. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Or do you even think like Comcast or someone could attempt to turn your cable box into a console or something? I don't know. I think there's there's possibilities for that.
Well, DirecTV already does. I mean, DirecTV has limited like easy to play games on their basic boxes. I mean, I can sit in my bed and play like
if they partnered with the right publisher or something for some sort of exclusives. I don't know. But
I don't think it's become a platform. I mean, like, what defines a platform? What defines a platform are these a series of AAA games, and then now we're going to add all these stuff with like community games and downloadable content, and the spectrum of different games that you can play, and of different content types that you can get on it. I don't think you're going to see that on like a set-top box.
No, but you're not going to see that in the near future on a set-top box. But people are going to be making meaningful business deals and stuff that could change the way these things actually work.
I think you'll continue to see more segregation. I mean, I think you'll continue to see like the evolution of the Wii to being this really family-oriented, casual game sort of platform with some other. I mean, it'll have its 20% of Zelda hardcore games and it's 80% of mainstream stuff, and you'll see the converse side of that on the PlayStation and on the Microsoft console.
See, I think Microsoft is going to. We've heard this rumor that they would allow third-party people to make Xbox-based systems. I think Microsoft's going to really push towards having Xbox be more of less of a platform and more of a software.
Yeah, Xbox could become like the new Wii in a weird way. That sits, 360. It sits
on your set-top box.
It's good enough for the long run.
Yeah,
it's almost like a media center evolution. Of Media Center PC becomes. I said that like years ago.
And here's one other thing: the PC platform is changing. The PC platform is changing, and it's not all about high-powered, expensive games. It's about
playing in a browser.
It's about playing in a browser
for free.
It's about playing casual games, casual MMOs. Kids growing up now are all on casual MMOs. And they are going to be demanding that stuff in the future. That's going to change the market too.
Yeah.
Well done. This next one,
it's a long one, but it's
number 7 comes from Perry Goodentrue. Perry Goodentrue says, so gaming as an entertainment medium is closing in on Hollywood levels, but there are a lot of Hollywood standards that still haven't really been penetrated. He said penetrated. In Hollywood, if you make a big blockbuster and earn your production company an ass ton of money, they tend to give you a little creative freedom to do a pet project every now and then with no questions asked. Undoubtedly, there are people already who could be doing this, like, say, Kojima or Team Rockstar, but either choose not to or aren't really given the option. Why do you think that is? Why is it so different? And is it because publishers aren't giving heavy hitters this freedom, or they simply don't want it?
I will say one thing. It's because $20 million to make a movie is peanuts, and $20 million to make a game is like the biggest budget in the world. So it's scale.
But if a AAA game can make a lot of money, then and if James Cameron can get like the $200 million to make his movie, like why can't Miyamoto or Kojima or Cliff be?
No, more to the point.
Right? Gaming hasn't hit critical mass the way movies has.
It makes more money. You always hear that. It makes more money than Hollywood.
Well, yeah, because games cost $60 a unit.
Right.
My point is more right. Okay, so some movie director makes a movie that with a $180 million budget, it's great, and then he's saying they can then make a cheap movie that's low budget,
right.
And then low budget movie is $20 million.
That's true.
Like a low budget game is so low budget that that's the stuff you're going to see going through Creators Club, actually, XNA Creators Club. That's actually
and we keep hearing about it. Wouldn't it be cool if they let these high-end people make, like Miyamoto makes a WiiWare game, and Kojima makes a PSN game.
Jaffe made Calling All Cars. So
look where it got him.
Exactly.
He fell off the map. I mean,
I'm not sure that there's a direct correlation between Jaffe making Calling All Cars and falling off the map.
Well, it definitely, I don't know, it wasn't received in the way that people thought it would be.
The movie pet projects that Perry Goodentree talks about are not the equivalent, though, of downloadable games or small content. They're still large-scale content. They're just made on a different. They're sort of a weird middle ground. That I don't even know that there are that many games being developed in that ground right now. I mean, that would be something.
That's
bigger than a downloadable game.
I think it's emergent.
And I guess I would point out that a lot of it is just a matter of time. You can make a smaller film in less than a year's time, but that's becoming more and more difficult with games as they get more and more complicated.
Well, and we seem to also, as a marketplace, not have a great tolerance for games that aren't AAA. I mean, if you're going to go and buy a $60 game, you're going to expect it to be, a AAA, well done, super high-end graphics, super high-end audio, great gameplay experience, probably has multiplayer and all these facets to it. So if you're going to sell another $60 game that's someone's pet projects, it still has to meet that bar in the price we're in right now.
$10 in 2 hours of your time is not that much to ask if something sucked.
Right. And so you're more prone to say, you know what, I'm going to go check out so-and-so's art movie, because it's going to be cool.
But we do have a major developer out there that does get to do his own projects. Look at Miyamoto.
Yeah, I was going to say, like Pikmin, Wii Music, whatever little whim, whatever whim he has, it's usually a smart whim. He gets to make it because of who he is. But I feel like in the West, it isn't like that.
It's interesting. Another element of the economy that changes in the movie scene is that movie doesn't hit as many theater screens, so you mass the people into the screens where it is playing. So if you want to go see it, maybe instead of going to just see it at Metreon, I have to go over to Kabuki 8 to see it. I have to go to a specific theater in order to see it, and so does everybody else. So it gathers the group in. You have it making money for the theater in that one spot.
I will say there are other examples, like Ueda, the guy who made Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. He has carte blanche. He can do whatever he wants, and that's awesome because no one's telling him, "Hey, you should make a James Bond game." He can do what he wants.
It's something that's difficult for people to carve out their niche, and it's a lot of decisions on games. It's a strength of games that games are made by giant groups of people who all put their input into it, makes them stronger as products, but it does dilute the vision to some extent as well. So.
But the diluting of the vision thing is a big piece to me. I think what would be more interesting would be for these people who earn that equivalent sort of status within the game business to be given a larger leash from the production side, a larger leash from the publisher's side of you need to have feature X and feature Y and piece A in this game because it's a shooter.
Well, and it's such a business. Like with Dead Space, everyone who played it loved it. Like I know Ryan was saying, I don't want Dead Space 2. I want those guys to be able to make whatever they want, whatever you want, whatever idea. But no, they're probably going to be forced to make Dead Space 2 because Dead Space is successful.
But then again, you have the situation with Ken Levine who made Bioshock 1.
When he got out of Bioshock.
He got out, and now he's doing what he wants to do.
That's
not
true.
making Bioshock.
So I guess that is hope for this.
And here we are arriving at the final question from Jesus, who says...
Jesus.
You got to rise up and walk.
Jesus says... Question 8.
You're a Pentecostal preacher now?
This generation started with digital download abominations like horse armor in Oblivion and a real money to fake money exchange rate in The Godfather. But as we head into holiday 2008, there seems to be a fair amount of entertaining and useful content at reasonable prices coming out at regular intervals across all the digital distribution channels. That would be Xbox Live Arcade, PSN, Wii Store, Steam, etc. Do you think these markets have matured from what they once were, or do you think that there is still a ways to go for these markets to be an effective and relevant marketplace for downloadable games and additional game content?
Well, one thing is that regular people, like broad audience people, need to know that they can do these things, be hooked up in the net, and understand that they can get good stuff out of this, and it's not just for the well-connected gamer.
So let's draw right back to my example about Wipeout, because we were talking about people making different buying decisions. There's some great inexpensive games there, but are they seeing the uptick that they should because of the economic pressures? Maybe not, because they're not marketed well. People don't know where to find them, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I started playing Little Big Planet, and in the game you can go to like the info page. It's right there next to your My Moon. It told me right there, go on to PSN and you can buy new stuff like right now. I was like, I didn't know about that, but I'm glad it told me because I probably wouldn't have known otherwise. You kind of have to advertise, let people know it's out there, because I think average consumer doesn't know to go looking for this stuff, especially add-on stuff.
Add-on stuff is a weird thing still. I've literally never bought any add-on content for a game yet.
Really?
Yeah,
I bought actually everything for Oblivion except for the horse armor.
Not that I'm saying it's bad. I would totally buy add-on content. It's just I haven't.
Well, I think it's definitely as people. Obviously, this started last generation with people buying map packs, new levels, Splinter Cell, new levels for the original Xbox, and I feel like it's matured. But you still have aberrations. Look at Mega Man 9, where
Fake Man.
Yeah, where
fuck you, Fake Man.
Some developers are less successful with it than others.
Yeah, when they're
pushing the boundary.
There's still instances of paying for things that are on the disc.
Well, it's funny because so Japan,
you should never pay for anything on the disc.
Japan and their usual we're 2 years behind, and the next gen is now doing the stuff that Oblivion 2 years ago made horse armor, and now Capcom's making horse armor for Mega Man, and Tales of Vesperia has fake money transaction.
Yeah. You can buy experience. You can buy experience in Vesperia. I thought that was fucked up. I'm like, that's disgusting.
I remember when we had that news story.
I was horrified.
Pretty messed up.
Horrified.
You're horrified.
Horrified.
Well, I mean, I'm not horrified by it, but it's absolutely stupid.
Can I buy someone who comes to my house and plays through the first level?
Yes, you can. It's just legalized gold. It's legalized gold farming.
So I think earning experience at 2 times the rate for a limited time or something would be a cool thing to buy. If you don't have a lot of time, it's cheating. But you don't have a lot of time to play. Hey, they sell it. That's something they sell in in Korean microtransaction games.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, no, they
Yep.
do.
Maple Story type shit. Yeah.
So I think that part of what we're talking about is, has it matured? Well, obviously it's matured tremendously because it just started. So of course you're at the very beginning of the curve. But I don't think you're very far up the curve yet.
Oh, that's the thing. Is there somewhere to go? There's plenty of places to go. You know how many smart people are sitting in office buildings around the world trying to think of cool shit to put in games? There's nowhere to go but up.
You know that the crazy Q? It's an MMO for PS3 by Q Games, and it's like it's a free to play, but you buy all the shit for your character.
Is that the Angel?
Yeah,
something?
it's not in Japan. It's not out here. But someone told me at TGS that the average user has spent like $1,000, and some users have spent like $100,000.
Holy shit!
I don't believe
No, that's what I was told.
I think
Was it
something
yen?
I think,
Was it
yeah,
yen?
I think
I don't
something
know.
got lost in translation.
Yen?
There's no way those numbers are right.
That's
I don't know.
not true. Maple
we were all
Story. You're on crack. Maple Story conversion rate or something is like, I want to say $3 to $6 per user.
And that
or
one
something.
lady's in jail now because of Maple Story.
But it's not impossible to make money, and they're finding ways to do it. I mean, if it were, hey, look at EA Dice making Battlefield Heroes. They think they can sell people fake shit in a game, and they're probably right. So it's going to be something we see more of.
I hope that none of the publishers have decided that even something as basic as the economy is settled. I'm very concerned that we've sort of settled into the pricing tier structure already, because I don't think it's ever been proven one way or the other. No one's tested it. It's like they threw the first fucking pricing model out there that they had, and they're like, oh, well, we're selling enough to be happy. Okay.
Well,
That's good.
No, I know from going to things like GDC and other talks that these are open questions that people are working to. Another thing they're really curious about is the rate at which they dribble it out. Like Mega Man has pretty much dumped it all out real fast. They want to. Okay, one of the real reasons DLC is really popular with developers and publishers is because it keeps people from selling games back to GameStop.
That's damn good reason.
Exactly why. That is the primary reason. They don't do it because they love you. It's because they want you to not sell your game back to GameStop.
The Wipeout series was very successful on PSP.
Nothing new about this. Mark, I mean, the Epic guys have been doing this with Unreal for forever.
The Valve games have been.
Well, and I think the next big test for this is the home avatar, buying shit for your avatars and buying avatar shit in new Xbox experience, because that is, you're buying things that are ultimately worthless. They're just there to look cool.
Yeah, but
they have
people
no function.
Do you know how many kids buy stuff in Habbo Hotel? Do you even know what Habbo Hotel is?
I know what that is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a virtual world, a pixelated virtual world, web browser based for it's a chat room for kids, and you can buy furniture and customize your avatars. And those kids spend real money on that crap, and then they abandon their accounts by the time they get to be at about 18 on average.
Yeah,
so
and you don't think they will be charging for a new lamp or chair and home? Of course they will.
Right.
Well, another test is going to be obviously the GTA 4 downloadable content. I mean, how much uptick?
When we finally,
when we finally get it.
And we've always heard it's going to be expensive.
We've always heard it's going to be expensive, and Dan Houser's been talking about how the doorway is open. They haven't decided even what to do with some of it. They have grandiose ideas. How much is it going to add to the game? I think that's going to be a big milestone for seeing how much the market has matured for that
I would
kind
have
of
to
game
say
stuff.
for a game I love, I would buy new quests and stuff. I would for sure. So.
All right, there you go.
That's it.
There you go, folks. That would be the end of 4-Minute Warning. So if you stick around, when we come back on the other side, we have the news. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, that means it's time for the news, I guess.
It's Halloween.
There we go. All right, so starting off the news segment, we're only about 2 weeks away from getting that new Xbox Live experience.
David Ellis has it right now.
David Ellis has it right now. Turns out that not only is it under development, hell, we're going to get a limited rollout of HD Netflix streaming.
It's already there. Talked about it last week a little bit. I wasn't able to talk about everything just because of embargo, but yeah, it's already there.
So it's going to be a soft launch. There's going to be evidently about 300 titles to kick this thing off, and now there's some indication that the other Netflix streaming boxes will also have this
Day one,
in November.
November 19th, yeah.
So
I think some people thought it was some kind of exclusive, but it's not.
it's really cool. I'm totally excited about it. How much bandwidth, though, do you think you need as someone who's used? You test video all the time.
The HD downstream is 5 megabits per second. So you need to have 7 or 8 megabits per second.
And what's the resolution?
The resolution is 1280 by 720.
So what's 7? I mean, hold on.
It's 720p.
7 or 8 megabits per second. That's not DSL, right? That's
no,
cable.
it isn't. Unless you have ADSL, it's not DSL. I mean, you're going to have to.
So I'm screwed.
Yeah. I mean, you're not screwed. You can still get the standard def stuff, which still looks good. It's like DVD quality or thereabouts.
It's good enough for my bad eyes. Is that what you're saying?
Not on a really large plasma TV. I mean, obviously, the smaller the screen is, the better the video quality is on these.
Well, I think it's really cool. I still remain super excited about Netflix streaming, but not so much else.
And the interesting is that the bitrate is identical to what Apple's been using for their HD stuff. Like, it's 5 megabits per second at 720p. This is pretty standard.
You guys, anybody else excited? Christian?
Potentially, yeah. I mean,
And the interesting thing is, like, they say 300 titles. It's actually, there's more content than you think because a lot of those titles are TV shows with entire series.
oh, wow.
So,
Yeah, I could be into that. Totally.
Here comes a big shopping surprise. The avatars will have a store where you'll be able to buy virtual items.
Is this actually a surprise?
Yeah, stunner.
This
right?
is Velocity Girl finally coming to fruition.
Okay.
No, because she's not going to be able to make the T-shirt herself.
exactly. Yeah.
Velocity
It's
Girl,
the-
you've been killed and you've been replaced by Benetton.
It's the Velocity Girl sweatshopification.
So,
I would like for Xbox Live Gold members to get a discount on accessories or something. I don't know.
I agree. I agree. I mean, that would be a good thing. I don't care about this.
In
Well,
which
but this is
context are you going to be showing off your avatars? Like, why are you going to care about your avatar so much that you want to show your
You can have little parties all the time and launch games.
And there's also like a visual friends list.
I know, I've
and-
seen the visual front.
Upcoming games.
I'm not gonna use it.
Upcoming E and E10 related games will have you playing your avatars.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, that's one of the things they're pushing is integration of the avatar into games more than
It
Wii.
would be kind of interesting if your avatar, and this wouldn't be something you pay for, but when you are playing a certain game, your avatar would have different outfits and clothing. If you're playing Halo, you'd have a Halo outfit. Something like that would be interesting.
Well, the way the avatars work is in-game, they can actually be exported as like character models, and then the developers can actually use them in like complete control
to
over
equip them
them.
and
Basically,
stuff.
Yeah.
they can do their own animation.
So
and
2 Human
everything.
2, you could use your avatar.
No, because it's not an E10 rated game.
Oh,
I'm guessing
You're right.
not.
So Robin Burrows, who's the Xbox Live product manager for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, was when he first started talking about this. I think it's actually the first time they've talked about their plans to sell the stuff. And one of the things he brought up was the fashion brands that they hope will be launching products inside the Xbox Live world. God damn it! This is like when you go to the Guess store and you buy a shirt that says Guess on it.
Well,
like I just paid
Holmes
money to have
Holmes
advertised
has
for
the
it.
same stuff.
Didn't we see a press release earlier this week that people are so excited that designers are designing clothes for Lara Croft in the new Tomb Raider
That was
game?
pretty funny,
Weren't you
wasn't
on the
it?
side of that's great? I love that.
I didn't say it was great and that I loved it. I said that making a big stink over it and acting like it's surprising when Lara has been on the cover of fashion magazines is absurd. Of course they're using her like that. She's been on the cover of a fucking fashion magazine.
I'm not going to buy Avatar sneakers. But the thing is, if they do cool stuff like I don't know, like things like more nerdy and game related,
I think
Like a big old name tag?
I think what would be
I mean, like, I don't know, Gears of War armor or something.
Yeah,
Not that I'd buy that necessarily, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Like,
agreed. And I think
could be cool.
I think like sports gamers would want to buy like their team specific jerseys. Like
All
absolutely.
right, I could buy that. I think it would be way cooler to have more of it be unlockable content or
Agreed.
extra content, like
Yeah.
stuff
But
you
that's
earn in the game.
not gonna be the case.
Like an extension of the
that's
of the
not written
gamer
off,
score.
though, is it? I mean,
No, it hadn't been written off.
so I think that's totally possible. If you get a really good achievement and you might unlock like a shirt or something, that'd be
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be way cool. I mean,
That
that's a
makes
great
sense.
way to translate all those achievements and the little achievement icons into the new avatar system in the new live experience.
Yeah.
Sony is madly working to release Home in 2008, reports VideoGamer.com. This would where Sony Worldwide Studio Vice President Jamie McDonald commented that developers are madly working to make sure that the date is hit, and it's going very well.
Well, they announced that the public beta will be on Quar.
You have to be
Right.
an annual subscriber though.
Yeah.
You can't just buy the episode.
Yeah.
That's the November issue. Yes, we have that down. So if you're a November issue of Core comes and you're an annual subscriber, you'll get an opportunity to get
How do you
into
feel
the
about
beta.
them charging for this beta? Like basically tangentially charging for the beta.
Well, the beta's been going on. The closed beta's been going on for a year.
sure,
So that
but
hasn't been charged.
But like the
for.
percentage of people in that is pretty slow.
Well, I mean, there's still a chance that Home, the real thing, will be out this year, and it's not going to cost any money.
Right.
So,
But
I don't know.
who remains really excited and enthusiastic about Home? I mean, from compared to where it was at at GDC it was launched now to now.
I'm still looking forward to it.
but I think now that XMB in-game XMB is fully functional, I think it's less of a big deal for me.
I think it's as exciting as the new Xbox experience in a lot of ways. So
I am definitely less excited, but I don't think it's because Home got worse. It's just because it took so long from
Yeah, I
being
would agree
announced
with
to
that.
coming out. I mean, it's not that I think Home sucks now. I just kind of that initial excitement just wore off. From,
it's also very casual. It's aimed at casuals. in a way that we can't. Like the idea of walking around talking to people playing backgammon, like that's not so exciting to us, but some people it is.
I think if home's free, I don't need to buy Animal Crossing because I can decorate my home house.
Exactly.
You just saved me $50, home.
I'm boycotting Animal Crossing out of principle.
McDonald had some interesting comments going on in this argument. He said the most online interaction is geeky, tedious, and short. He says, I got into a first-person shooter online and I lasted about 15 seconds. It's not much fun. So that was really our driving force with Home, to provide an environment where it's fun to go and you can hang out with like-minded people. And I think that like him saying that is another one of these examples of like there being so many different messages about Home. Like, what the fuck is Home? Is it a game that I go play?
It's a lot of things.
No,
and
it's
the
a
home,
lobby. It's a
the home,
is it a lobby?
Exactly.
But like the game-specific home spaces they've shown to us and the ones at TGS, very exciting. And like I'm excited about those things.
I think the game-specific spaces are cool.
It sounds almost like a digital representation of like a forum environment.
At the same time, I mean, like I mentioned this before, but like look at Habbo Hotel and like the people stand around and talk in that.
Right. And
People do it in WoW.
Like for the average person, if you have a headset on, you're walking around home, you hear the directional positional audio as you walk past people. That's cool, and that's something you can't get in
Also,
a lot of
I will say that's in Fable 2. I mean, you can turn that on in Fable 2, and I actually do like that.
It's
Fable
cool.
2, so
It's a cool effect.
We have no shortage of like real life friends to play games with whenever we want.
Most
also.
people don't.
And not necessarily. I mean, they may have a few or whatever. Like this is a way to meet
and
people.
You forget what it's like to be 13. Like
2 years ago, before I moved out here and was in the industry, like I had maybe 2 friends that I knew in real life that played video games.
And that was when you were 13, right?
Yeah, exactly, because I'm 15 years old.
Well, one thing Sony's going to have to work on is developing the infrastructure for their online networks to support Home. We know it's we know it's in small shards. What's the count of players in each Home shard? It's like 60, right?
I don't remember.
Anyway, they had, as we talked about earlier, they had trouble with the Little Big Planet servers right after they came on. They had to go back off. They're back up as of Wednesday. You know what was pretty amazing to me was that there was not more negative backlash to the servers going down. I mean, there was frustration, there was irritation, but there wasn't like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, these guys suck.
I think we're kind of used to this. SOCOM 2 weeks before, WoW,
Sony
everything.
is still ironing out.
But it is, it seems to be more of a Sony-specific problem.
Well, okay, so Sony, I think, and I could be wrong, that I think SCE is running the servers for most of their games.
Yeah.
First-party games, regardless of who developed them. So they're probably still, relatively new to dealing with this problem comparatively, and they are ironing it out.
And obviously Microsoft had their own server problems last year with Xbox Live, so...
And how are they? And Shane, you've been playing. How are they since they came back up?
Well, as of this afternoon, they were down.
Again?
Again. But they were up earlier today.
And when they were, it's just kind of...
When it's up, when they were up yesterday, they ran fine.
Is this going to turn into like the terror alert system when the servers are up or down?
No, the thing is, it'll gradually improve.
Yeah,
I think you could probably draw a parallel to the launch of World of Warcraft, though.
Yeah, much like World of Warcraft. This is their #1 game this fall worldwide, and they realized they have to get this thing working.
I don't know if you remember, but like when World of Warcraft launched, it was a disaster. I was on one of the 12 servers. There were 12 servers that had like notorious problems. They were down for days. They eventually came up with this explanation where they had taken the servers away and rebuilt the shards and brought back new hardware. And they were like within days of launch, they were buying tons and tons of new hardware because of the overwhelming demand, and them not knowing and not thinking what sort of network infrastructure they needed. And I think we'll probably see the same thing with LBP.
Well, here's the thing. You don't want to spend a bunch of money on servers that are sitting there like gathering dust. So they tend to try to
lowball.
Right, and then so they get screwed over. It's sad for everyone who's playing, really wants to play, excited about Little Big Planet, but it's sad for Media Molecule because that this is the foundation of their game and their ideal. So, but I'm sure people are working very hard on it. I don't feel it's frustrating, but not unexpected, and will be resolved.
I'd say for the first couple of days, if you see the servers are up, download any levels you want to play so you can play them offline.
That's true.
I think it's really cool how understanding gamers have been about it. How long does that goodwill last, though? that's going to be one question.
I think 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Little Big Planet attracts nice people.
It's also it's one of those games you just turn on. You have to be happy when you're playing it. It's just like fucking joy in a box.
Yeah, and as we explained,
fucking joy in a box. If you don't buy that, I'll hit you with a baseball bat.
Even if the servers are down, there's still a lot of fun to be had. Sadly, but it's true.
So we've been talking a lot about next-gen gaming. An interesting story came up on Game Daily about PlayStation 2, where there was a report that Sony Computer Entertainment of Europe is removing the certification process for PS2 development, which is sort of, in an essence, making the PS2 an open development platform. George Bain of SCE noted that this creates a low development cost environment where Russian and Indian developers can make games and release them to the market.
I think this is kind of a good idea, but I also think it's a terrifying vision because Europe had really, really lax control previously, like things like White Van Racer or
What do you mean? It's like the Wii.
Well, like a lot of the worst Wii games you'll find, I forget the publisher, but like they came from Europe and they were originally
like
PS2
Anubis
games.
2 and Ninja Bread Man. Right,
Exactly.
okay, here's the story, right? Like, first of all, I want to get confirmation of this, and I actually haven't made an effort to, so that's my bad. But I have a suspicion that this isn't entirely accurate, and it may only apply to those territories where PS2 is being rolled out in like low-budget territories,
right. like
India and Eastern Europe, where it, this may not apply to like Indian code shops may not be able to make like certification-free games that are going to be released to retail shelves in North America. Like, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen.
Yeah, and North American approval is still, like it used to be. More
you get like the PS2 equivalent of Bollywood. That'd be bizarre and interesting.
It would be hot potentially. But, I mean, I think the actual effect this is going to have on people who are listening to this podcast is probably slim to none.
Yeah.
So
very minimal.
Well, one thing you may get some impact from is their other breaking development, which is that confirming. Well, I guess
we talked about this like 9 months ago.
Yeah, no,
GDC. This was a big hot topic issue.
It sort of confirms the rumors that we were. I guess it doesn't. It confirms the rumors that we talked about back at GDC time of Sony putting together a very, very detailed motion control device that breaks apart into two pieces.
Uses sonar.
This comes from some patent documentation.
It really uses.
I thought it was visual tracking using the PlayStation Eye.
It's both.
Oh.
It's used, dude. This thing is absolutely crazy. It's like it can be taken apart into two pieces.
It kind of looks
back together in different shapes.
It looks like a Klingon death blade, kind of.
Well, it depends on how you put it back together because it has a removable face button plate, so you can like change the way the handles are attached. It has like these bulb shapes that are on top of it. It has LEDs and ultrasonic sound emitters, so that the PlayStation Eye camera can like get its relative position in space. They showed like one of the drawings shows like this dude holding it like a giant boomerang over the back of his head, like he's playing. It looks like he's playing Highlight. You ever seen Highlight?
Yeah.
It looks like he's playing Highlight with it.
If you look for the story, you can watch these diagrams of what it looks like in the different configurations and them playing a game that looks like Bushido Blade.
Right.
It's all drawn, but it looks a little complicated to me.
I actually thought that they were just going to make a cheap Wiimote knockoff and put it on the PS2. Like that's what I thought.
Right.
Was
Instead, they kind of went beyond that in this.
They're going the other direction.
High end.
I think it sounds possibly too complicated.
Yeah, it sounds like Sony's usual difficulty of they're a hardware and engineering company. They over-engineered the solution, maybe, and
it seems like it would be something they could break very easily and be a hassle to keep.
But if it really does offer like real motion control and knows where you are in the room in position to the game, like it could offer a gameplay experience that we couldn't even imagine.
But if you're in a house with like kids, if your parent has kids and they're always bumping in the TV and you have to like reset the alignment every time you play.
Yeah, but we're kind of poo-pooing this crazy pie in the sky high tech idea that's just right now a concept that they're trying to patent. It's not like they're selling it right now.
Sure, and they could just be a patent they're going to sit on. They're not going to do.
We have absolutely no idea what this is, what system it's for,
right?
When and where it might be released.
But it definitely
with what games.
It promises like a new horizon in gaming that we can't even really comprehend right now. So I'm interested in it.
And by the way, what the hell happened to the 360's motion control?
Oh yeah.
Still AWOL. Where the hell
they're
is
waiting for Rare to come up with a game. It'll be 3 years or something.
Cameo 2.
Remember, avatars were invented before me's. It just took Rare a while to cook them up. So.
Well, one game has been around for a long time is Mortal Kombat. It's changing itself up a little bit to get a T rating. Ed Boon, who is the Mortal Kombat creator, was speaking with Kotaku, and he said that Midway has sent at least 3 different versions of the game to the ESRB, making small alterations to each one because they're trying to get the game to a teen rating. I mean, this is important both for the DC licensing and for the fact they want to sell the game to enough people.
It's DC. It's really DC based. I mean,
don't you think it's also like helping them though?
Yeah, it helps them. I mean. But I think that DC is the one who dictates it. I don't know that they wanted to, from a creative standpoint, do it. I mean, I don't want to put words in their mouth either way. But I mean, I heard about this at E3, actually, and I don't think it got a lot of play. I actually did an interview with one of the guys there. I don't know when it went up, but DC is a stipulation of the license that they want T.
Yeah,
so that's hard.
And you can't. I mean, and now teen has gotten pretty loose. Even look at Uncharted. You can blood and so this game does have blood. It's not like it's totally whitewashed.
Oh yeah, no, it's not totally whitewashed.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we had in here that they had to change was the Joker's the Joker's fatality where he like pulled out one gun.
Oh, that was the best part of the whole game.
It said bang, and then he pulled out another one and shot the dude in the face.
That's the only reason people want to play the game.
Yeah, so now the part where he shoots the guy in the face, the guy's off screen, so you hear him pull the trigger. You see him pull the trigger or whatever, but you don't get to see the guy getting shot in the face.
Wow.
I liked that one.
So also causing a lot of uproar with the ESRB was Fallout 3's trailers. We got a weird email from Bethesda earlier this week that had us remove all of the Fallout 3 trailers from the website.
Yeah.
This is to everybody due to violations of the ESRB's principles and guidelines for responsible advertising.
If you recall, David Ellis talking about how violent and gory this game was a few weeks ago.
Well, it is super violent and gory. I mean, the only thing that's strange to me...
It's a really violent series. I mean, but similar situation happened with Dark Sector. I don't know if you remember that.
Sure.
Where we had to pull some of their trailers down. And did we ever get exactly spelled out why this is?
I don't think it's the content of the trailers, like the violence in them. I think it probably has to do with the specific stipulations in the ESRB rating system that require
is it because
the
rating pending, or is it?
I don't know specifically, but I think it probably has to do with the guidelines that are drawn up by the ESRB. We'll probably may not get an exact answer, but they just for some reason the trailers didn't meet those agreed to.
Well, the guidelines are sort of open ended. I mean, the three that we pulled out to reference were they have a heading called violence, and it says graphic and or excessive depictions of violence, graphic and or violent depictions of the use of weapons, and graphic and or excessive depictions of blood and
these
or
are like
gore.
the rating what's the word I'm looking for
Descriptors?
here? Descriptors, yes. What I'm talking about.
These are the principles and guidelines for responsible advertising practices, which is a whole separate. They have this whole thing.
It's overly complicated.
It is overly complicated.
What I'm just assuming is that rather than that they didn't meet those guidelines in terms of content, well, probably what it is they didn't meet they didn't have a certain disclaimer in the trailer that they need to have, per their agreement.
I guess I would ask, why did it take till release day?
Well, that's the more interesting question, right? I mean, none of these trailers, the newest trailer was from July at E3. Why did it take all this time? Why did it just happen to come up
Someone must have made a stink.
It didn't affect just gameplay,
someone was asleep at the wheel.
I mean, there've been some other weird things like the game, at the last minute being canceled for India. I mean, there's kind of strange things about Fallout 3's rollout.
Well, another strange thing is the uproar in Washington D.C. over the subway ads. Did you guys see this one?
No.
Yeah.
So this is bizarre. Like Metro Rail riders going through Metro Center over the past several weeks may have noticed signs throughout the station advertising a game called Fallout 3. So anyway, this who is this guy Joseph Anzalone? Who you know what? I wish our story actually included who he is, but I guess he has something to do with the transit system there.
He's probably Metro executive.
So the bottom line is, I'm not going to read the whole story. He's upset because everyone already knows that Washington D.C. is one of the primary targets for violence and terrorism, and this just puts the thoughts back in our heads every day when we go by these scenes.
Or do they show destroyed Washington D.C. in the ads? Have you seen?
No, the ad just has the ad that I saw, the picture of the story that I saw. It just had a picture of one of the Brotherhood of Steel soldiers with a black background.
Yeah, I mean, it would be in poor taste if you walk out and it's destroyed the mall, if it was Washington Monument knocked over.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, if it was something like that, but I don't think that's the case.
Robo Lincoln, I don't know, whatever.
This is just is this another one of those Aqua Teen Hunger Force ads in Boston sort of situations?
Terror.
Overreacting. I don't know. I actually don't know. So.
It's kind of hard. You can't really tell people what does and does not get under their skin.
Sure.
At the same time, it's a video game about a post-apocalyptic future that's had some nuclear war between superpowers.
Sure, but I could see, and this isn't a one-to-one situation, but I could see right after the whole DC sniper thing went around, if there was an advertisement for a sniping game
set in DC.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one-to-one, but I could see that. I mean, I don't know.
We have
I don't think it's a big
deal. There's all kinds of posters for different
DC.
movies that take place in cities.
Agreed. And probably if this was a movie that had destroyed Washington D.C., we would not be having this conversation. Yeah, it's because it's a video game.
I think
Independence Day. I bet it was advertised there.
I bet it was.
Miyamoto would like us to have newer and fresher Mario and Zelda games. So Stephen Totillo over at the MTV Multiplayer blog has a long-running interview with Miyamoto, and one of the interesting parts that we've lifted out of this was where he was talking about his conversations with the development teams, both for regarding Zelda and Galaxy. And he said, so speaking to Zelda, he said it wasn't a bad game by any means.
Twilight Princess, you mean, right? That one.
What'd I say?
Yes. You said Zelda, but
right.
Zelda's very vague.
The most recent Zelda. Right.
The most recent Zelda was not Twilight Princess.
The most recent console Zelda. There. Is everyone happy? Move on.
Speaking about Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, he said it wasn't a bad game by any means, but I still felt like there was something missing. And he also says that while personally I felt Super Mario Galaxy was able to do some things that were very unique, at the same time, from another perspective, certain elements of it do feel somewhat conservative.
I feel a few ways about this. For one, if they didn't only make one of these games like once every 6 years, I'd say go to town. But it's like Super Mario Galaxy was the first Mario game
in forever,
and it was really good.
And it was really good. So okay, so on one hand, people are always saying particularly about Zelda, that it needs to freshen up a bit. I like the idea of newer and fresher, but is newer and fresher means make it like Wii Music or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm also like Miyamoto, you didn't make those two games. Yeah, you might have up into the table, you might have told someone what to do, but you didn't make those games. It's kind of a disservice to the guys who did make them. I don't know.
Well, his explanation for what he's thinking here is along these lines. He says, where I think we're able to innovate is when we're able to find something that's a unique resource or a unique idea or a unique sense of what is fun, whereas a lot of times in game development, teams might look at an interactive gameplay element that maybe isn't in and of itself a particularly fun thing to do, but then what they do is they refine it, they polish it very well, and they put a lot of other elements around it, and then that experience becomes fun. So I think he's going to want to... I think what he's saying, to me, what he's saying is that those games still had the identikit part of those games, but we didn't innovate with the Wii controls. We didn't. But I disagree. I mean, Mario, you couldn't have done Mario.
Right,
on a different system.
Zelda obviously was like a 11th hour port, so it wasn't super Wii-tastic. But in a way, I don't know if we want Miyamoto to go loose with crazy Wii stuff. I mean, we might get a Wii Music Zelda.
It's interesting. I want to trust the guy. Obviously, he's Miyamoto.
Right.
But you just.
And isn't part of it also probably that it is Miyamoto and he's just pushing himself really hard? It's like he always wants to be better.
How about talking about some new games instead of saying that the games we thought were really good weren't good?
He is working on Punch-Out.
How so?
He's producing Punch-Out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a story out there today about that.
He's producing Punch-Out, which is not as directly involved as directing Punch-Out. But yeah,
sure.
He's got his eyes on it.
So speaking of, not so creative, Famitsu magazine did a poll of 55 companies in Japan and asked them to kind of sum up, do some summation work on Tokyo Game Show, and they voted that Capcom...
Shockingly, Monster Hunter deemed to be the most...
Wait, this was other companies, not attendees? This was other companies?
No, they polled 55 Japanese companies, and of them, Monster Hunter 3... took 33 of the votes for most interesting console game on display, and Resident Evil 5 took 21, pretty much giving it 54 of the 55 votes. I wish we had what the other one that got one was. Also getting a lot of respect there was the next in the Ace Attorney series, and that beat out Dragon Quest IX, but Dragon Quest IX also got some votes. Capcom...
Dragon Quest IX wasn't even there except as a trailer anyway, so I mean, that probably would have... If it were more than a trailer, I think that would have taken more votes. You know what it proves? People like popular games, even those who work at companies. Yeah. And in Japan, where people are conservative and they want to make money and make games that are like other games, guess what? They like the ones that are popular. Next.
The only other interesting part of this poll was that the Xbox 360 left the greatest impression on people in the poll. That's kind of interesting. I mean...
Was it a good impression? Bad impression?
My guess would be that they probably... beat their expectations, maybe?
Right.
I mean, I guess...
I think that's what they're saying.
Really
also,
low.
if you were waiting in line for Monster Hunter 3, you were right in front of the Microsoft booth.
It's true.
Huh. Well, so they love their polls over there. Kotaku has a...
Kotaku? Cold taco?
Cold taco.
After this, let's get some tacos.
Get some taco. Now I'm hungry.
There was some good
shit. Now I'm hungry.
There was some good tacos at the party last night.
There were.
No, they were all right. All right. Anyway, Kotaku is reporting that the Dengeki Online poll of how many people did they poll here? Anyway, they polled a bunch of people about whether or not they were going to go get a DSi soon or not.
This surprised me.
And only 3.6% of the respondents said they were going to get one soon.
Well, Dengeki is a really hardcore publication. Dengeki is, it's kind of like, I don't know, like the Game Fan of Japan or something. You know what I mean? It's way more. Yeah. It's the hardcorest.
But it does make me wonder that should Nintendo have had a game at launch that requires the DSi?
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, yes, they should have. Just like for the first year of DS, they should have had good games, but it, didn't
they should have had like Nintendog and Me, or something. I don't know, like something.
Nintendog Fursuit Simulator.
Yes.
Take your picture.
Well, the DS has been one part of Nintendo's license to print money, and the Wii has been the other part. EA hasn't been able to enjoy too much success on either platform, which I guess could contribute to part of their $310 million loss that they recently announced in their Q2 results.
So much for quality.
Yeah, I mean, wow, dude, that's a serious number, and we've already seen the impact of that, which is the knock-on story to this, which is that they have they've lightened their employee count by 600 heads.
And what's interesting is that it's not like they closed one studio, which would obviously have a huge load. They actually it's throughout the organization globally.
Yeah, they made sweeping cuts pretty much. So they just pretty much skimmed across each layer. So for those of you out there who work at EA, we're very sorry to hear about your job loss and hope that things work out for you over the next few months.
Did they offer any specifics as to what caused the loss? Obviously underperforming.
Well,
games.
because of the global economic meltdown,
Facebreaker was...
their stock has lost 40% of its value. I mean, that's not as bad as some other people, but like all the big four are doing badly here in America because of the stock market.
Oh, Microsoft posted. Or you're talking about Game Developers. Microsoft posted actually they had good numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, losing money in this sense is from either spending too much money and not recouping it on game development, or
they took some hits. This is the quarter in which they incur the loss for canceling Tiberium. They had delays to Harry Potter and the Half-Blooded Prince.
That's big, actually.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge chunk out of their potential revenue, right? So, Riccatello termed that a few slips and kills. So, that's definitely bad. The few numbers that did come out of this, Spore sold 2 million copies in just 3 weeks. Has had over 40 million creatures uploaded to the Sporepedia. So that's a pretty big hit for them. Warhammer.
What percentage of them are penises?
A large percentage.
Wah, wah.
Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning did pretty well. It sold 1.2 million copies in the quarter.
It'll be interesting to see if it's staying power, though, because if you look at like Age of Conan, whoops.
People check it out and move on.
Yeah, they're very much
and
whoops,
of course
right?
with Lich King less than a month away.
Yeah, a lot of cancellations, I bet.
And they also did awesome, surprisingly enough, with Madden NFL 09. Who knew that they would sell a lot of Madden?
But then again, they also spend so much money marketing Madden, which maybe could be
but it's 4.5 million. That's a lot of sales.
Yeah, I agree. But like, how much would their sales be without like the millions and millions of marketing money behind it?
I do not know.
It's a juggernaut. Can't stop it.
They have to keep marketing because they have to keep getting you to buy it new because the used game market is defrauding the industry. At least that's what the founder of Lost Winds, which is a game developer, Frontier Developments, David Brabin, was speaking to the UK industry, and he said that that used games are really damaging to the single-player experience, and that's what he told Game Industry Biz. He was a little bit more vocal about it when he was talking to Eurogamer. He said, these shops are not giving us a way of distinguishing between pre-owned and new, so the shops are essentially defrauding the industry.
Well, I think we're seeing a couple of games that are doing some things outside of digital distribution, like add-ons after the fact, to encourage people to buy new versions of the game versus older ones. Gears of War 2 will come with a map pack code for 5 remake maps from Gears 1 that have been updated that you will only ever be able to get from buying a new copy of Gears of War 2. You will not be able to pay for it later down the line. And you also... So, we'll see.
A more general consumer is not going to be savvy to that, though.
It's true, but I think if you're a shooter fan, a Gears of War fan, I think
there's a lot of people who definitely are. But I mean, way back I used to work in some of these stores like Shane did.
Same here.
And you remember the people who come in like a month after a game's out and they're like, "Yo, dude, what's cool?" But you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be. It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot to combat it. I think that he's being a bit melodramatic, but at the same time, he's very frustrated because it's the balance, right? We were just talking about how $60 is a lot of money, and now that I buy all my games pretty much, I am more selective. And one thing that I know is I used to buy a game right away when it came out. Now, unless it was released by Atlas, I won't do that because it's by the time I get around to playing it, it might be $20. So why bother?
I kind of have a controversial opinion about this, and it stems a lot from having worked in those games in those stores that take used games, which is that I think that the used game business does a fair share of driving the market number in general. I think that if you completely...
That's the GameStop argument, sure. From their managers, yeah.
Right. And I know that having watched, there were a lot of people who were consuming games at a greater rate than they would have ordinarily because they'd play a game for a week or two, and then they'd trade it in while it's still worth a lot of money, and buy the next game, and buy the next game, and buy the next game, and buy the next game.
I don't have the numbers on this, but there's two things that stick out in my mind. Recently, a few months back, there was a study, and they said that there's a certain percentage of people who are the This wasn't GameStop. This was an external study. That are the people who do that, like churn rate
Super
people.
churn.
And then there's also GameStop. I think they say 9% of new games are bought with used game credit. I believe it's 9%.
Only 9.
Yeah,
well, that's pretty low then.
But as if all of us who worked in a everybody who worked in a store,
I don't want to misquote this, but
Yeah.
I recently did stores in this. I can't remember.
All right.
we all worked in a game store that sold pre-owned games, right? And like, would you ever buy a pre-owned game unless it was a really good deal, which doesn't happen very often? More often than not, it was $5 or $10 less than a new one, and I would never sell a used game to my friends. I mean, like, especially with discs, I don't know. It just seems like a really bad investment.
Would I buy a used game? Like Gears of War. They're going to have a used copy of Gears of War
$54.99
a week after it comes out. Am I going to buy that? No.
Like, but there are people who do that. I'm like, well, really? All right, this has been used.
$5
Buyer beware.
That's
Right,
that's
but
a lunch.
it's not like they don't let you look at the disc when you take it out. I mean,
but will I buy used games in general? Like sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes. If it's a good deal, but in general, it's not a good deal that I found.
Oh, I don't think it's a good deal, but I mean, there's two sides to this. I mean, one side there's the churn people, right? But then there's also there definitely is a marketplace of people who buy used games and are not buying a lot of new releases, or maybe they buy a new release here now. And that does take away some amount of games that they would have bought. But I mean, how many new games? I don't know. I don't think that it's as damaging as people think it is, but it does definitely play into the market. But it's kind of a give and take.
I guarantee you that GameStop has more statistics on this than they were sharing with us, and I guarantee that there's studies that, like I said, I can't remember the numbers, so people are going to Google them up. Some of the stuff's on Gama Sutra. Some of it's
I was actually reading your interview today. I wish I could remember the quote, but think of the margin. Like EB, GameStop, their margin on a used game is like 30, 40.
Well, here's
30, 40, 50%. As opposed to like 10 or 12.
My friend just told me this. I had no idea they were doing this. My friend bought Fable 2 at GameStop recently, and they told him if he traded it in within like an X number of days,
you get 20.
He'd get $45 for it.
Well, that's good, because the big problem with EB, usually you get like $15 for your brand new game.
Max but it's would be like 25.
But think if they're willing to give you $45 of store credit for a game, think about how much more money they make off used games, and that is where this rubber meets the road on this issue with publishers and developers feeling fucked over by it. Like it's serious. So,
but should there be some sort of then profit sharing back then with the developers? I mean, I don't know how you track it.
Well, the thing is, GameStop is in the driver's seat in a big way because they are the only game specialty retailer in North America. And they're becoming one of the only game specialty retailers internationally. They're all over Europe,
Australia.
They bought Game, right, in UK. Yeah.
They haven't bought Game. Game still exists as a separate entity. However, they're like Scandinavia. They're expanding into Australia, New Zealand. They're the only specialty retailer in New Zealand. Small country, but I mean, that's their goal is to become. And the more globe they cover, the more clout they have, and then publishers can't tell them to fuck off or whatever. It's an uncomfortable relationship, potentially.
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, if you trade in a game, it's not like you're able to play the game anymore as long as you didn't make illegal copies of it. So,
but the issue is that developers feel and publishers feel like people are getting a chance to buy a game that they don't make any money off of it. That they would have bought a new copy if only.
There's no thinking to it. I mean, that does happen. I mean, if I go in and I buy a used copy of Fallout, then none of that money goes to Bethesda.
No copy of Fallout ever sold. The MPD, that's not an MPD.
Right.
It's an invisible sale.
It is an invisible sale. I understand that.
And it hits developers like David Braben way more than it hits Microsoft in a sense. I mean, sure, Gears of War will sell
millions,
8 million copies or something, and say 2 million end up becoming used copies or something, so there's 10 million were sold, but whatever. But this guy is making very small games, 20, 50,000 people might buy or something. Like if it's that percentage, it could really screw him over as a developer. It's a complicated, difficult situation.
It's definitely a complicated situation.
Yeah.
So we got two last stories here. First one is, we have a lot. You know what? I don't know what I was thinking when I pulled news today. I pulled a lot of news that was just like no one's surprised by any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Guess what?
A new Elder Scrolls game?
I know. Are you amazing, right? Oh my God. So there's going to be a new, a tease by Bethesda's Paul Aughton that there would be a new Oblivion follow-up in 2010. I don't think that comes as a surprise.
Perhaps after that, Fallout 4.
Yeah, you think?
Maybe.
And then Oblivion 6.
I think the only thing that surprised me is it's 2010 and not 2009. I mean, so if they were reusing the engine, and you figure that they already had some people
But think about how much content they have to build out.
Yeah.
For if they're going to,
But Bethesda's grown pretty large.
Have they?
Yeah, they're a pretty big outfit.
I hope they're large enough to fix the really, really nasty bug in the PS3 version of Fallout 3. That every time you get a status update from a friend logging on or doing something, your game freezes for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
How did that get through Sony QA? I think that's on Sony too.
I think they let it pushed through so they could have a day and date with the other versions. But they better fix that.
Sony should be ashamed of it for that then.
Well, I think everybody's already talked about how Fallout 3 looks best on PC at high res, but that the 360 version, I mean, everyone seems to agree that there's a noticeable bump in the 360 version over the PS3 version. Have you looked at them side by side?
I still haven't, but
I've heard
that's
that.
what I've heard.
Yeah. Who was telling me about that last night? Someone was. Oh crap! Someone was talking to me off about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's made the rounds.
And the thing is, Bethesda has said they don't really care about Sony PlayStation 3. They don't really work with them closely. They don't have a good relationship with Sony.
DLC is not going to get released to PlayStation 3. I mean,
the Shivering Isles was a disc. They didn't put it on PSN. They didn't. It's. I mean,
what about the Steam version not being able to use the fan mods? That's kind of weird.
They said possibly.
Possibly. Okay.
But I mean, there's kind of the same. There was the same thing with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. You couldn't use mods from the Steam edition, but someone released an open source patch that allowed you to do it. So.
Yoko Ono has signed off, and there will be a Beatles music game.
Hallelujah. I'm so happy.
Put together by your friends at Harmonix and MTV.
And that really makes me happy, because in Q-Man a few months ago, there was the rumor that Guitar Hero was getting it, because it was a big fight for a long, long time. Both sides wanted this.
Yep.
It was a giant war, and I feel that good beat evil here.
But evidently it's not going to be a Rock Band game.
Even better.
Because it's so much caught up in the experience of being with the band.
Do you really want a Beatles platformer?
I want, like, a Beatles experience.
I want to drop acid and, like, play with an iToy Beatles experience.
I want to, like, drive...
How about that?
I want to, like, drive the bus on the Magical Mystery Tour and, like, pick people up in a massively multiplayer Beatleverse. And I'm not fucking around.
I want to play the Yellow Submarine stage.
I wanted to go through their entire catalog with amazing graphics, and I think the Harmonix is the team to do it. I'm really happy they got it. Couldn't be better.
How much longer till we get the Led Zeppelin version?
I want it to be like Beatles Love, like a contiguous 50-minute mix of Beatles music.
Seriously.
That's like this could be hot.
Could be the best thing ever.
It'll be awesome.
It'll have to be more than 50 minutes, though.
Well,
they're talking about having the entire catalog.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest, coolest license that's happened in the last decade.
Of course, how many caterwauling drunk people are going to be trying to sing Beatles songs now and just butchering them?
You know what? As long as William Shatner has more material to work on with Beatles songs, I'm a happy man.
A massively multiplayer drunken Hey Jude sing along.
Oh yes,
yes. I'm on board.
I'm on board.
All right, there's a note to end it on. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you're out there enjoying it, being safe. Trick or treat, whatever you're doing.
Razors in your apples.
Don't give them bad ideas like that. Come on.
I remember when I was a kid, we were trick or treating, and my cool babysitter, she and her friends who were in high school, they filled their water guns with rubbing alcohol and went shooting little kids in the eyes.
Oh, nice.
I was like, you're so cool, Chrissy, my babysitter.
That's fucked up.
That's where you get your mean streak.
You had the biggest crush on Chrissy, didn't you?
She was pretty cool.
You kind of like, you see, you kind of got teary-eyed there for a second.
She's married.
It's because she shot him in the eye with rubbing.
All right, folks, there you go. Weekend's now confirmed for you. So for Shane, David, Christian, thanks for coming in. You're welcome every time, anytime, whatever.
I'll let other people have a shot at it. I know.
All right, this is Garnet. Thanks. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, we are Ghost.